So, so we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Podrace After Party. It's Saturday again, so you know that means General Katarn is live with his co-host.
Flipped out here. What's up, guys?
And we have a new guest today. It's those two bald guys. Um, and I've actually watched, some of their content. You know, in the sense that they are very focused. They have like just under 60 subs, and they are very focused. And I think that if they get the proper exposure that they need, they can erupt into something uh, big on YouTube. Anyway, you guys are more organized than what I am, for example. That I can
Well,
tell you.
really appreciate that. That's nice of you to say. Yeah, this is Jay from those two ball guys. So hello, everybody. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. So, Flip and I were talking just before we started this live stream. We were talking about voice impressions, and I was telling him that one of my favorite ones was Hondo Anaka from the Clone Wars and Rebels. I just really, really love that voice so much, and I remember caught myself, doing that voiceover. I remember, when my mom she tried to make me this. She tried making me lunch this one time, and she put mushroom sauce over my steak. I'm like, what do you mean you put the mushrooms over my sauce? I think it's disgusting. I told you I am allergic to fungus. And she's like, where did you pick this up? From the Clone Wars. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to remove these mushrooms one by one. This is bad business. Anyway.
That is phenomenal.
I haven't seen the prequels in, I'm not kidding you, over a decade because I hate them. That's where I stand on there. But I remember that now that you're bringing that up. That is like dead. Yeah. If you can make me laugh this many years later, that's good.
Oh, cool. So that's very fortunate that we have a prequel disliker, or I can say hater. But the thing is,
Yeah, I said it.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey, we have the rant. You see, the thing is,
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, dude.
Hey, man.
All right, get a little more lively.
Real quick, guys, I just want to shout out a couple guys that just met on a different stream. CK Stars, go sub to him. CK Stars, and then also D1. D1. I'm gonna have to look him up real quick. My bad. I'll get back to it. I know, right?
Hey, there's always so much going on, man. I get it. I mean, my brain is racked today. Like, seriously.
I got it. D1 Gray. It's spelled DEI-WAN-Gray. So check him out on YouTube.
Okay.
Cool.
Right.
So I think Katarn was. Oh, you're back. Okay, go ahead, man.
Yeah. What was I saying? I'm sorry, kind of got distracted.
You were talking about the clones.
Oh, you were saying how it was good you had a prequel hater here.
Well, yeah.
You were
See,
calling
the
me
thing
out.
is,
I remember that.
no, I'm not calling you out. The thing is that I can respect when someone has a difference of opinion, but I told Flip that I was going to rant about something today. Where do you stand? Where do you stand about on the sequel trilogy so far?
You asking me about the sequels?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I really liked Force Awakens when it came out. I watched it. I've only seen it maybe 4 times, but I really liked the new characters. I really liked where they were headed. There was some stuff, where they're basically repeating A New Hope. And I went, okay, well, I'll forgive them because it's been 10 years and they're starting over with a new company and new people. So I'll forgive it, but they can't do this again. Whatever the next episode is, it can't just be a rehash. I'm only going to forgive that one time. So I was fine. And that's where I've stood on Force Awakens until Last Jedi. And so my big problem now is not only do I hate Last Jedi with a serious burning passion, but I don't care about Force Awakens anymore. What the hell is the point for me to ever see Force Awakens again? Because all that buildup, it goes nowhere. So I find no enjoyment in the film anymore, unfortunately. So I used to really like it, but they ruined it.
All right, so that's the base of my rant. Again, another Last Jedi rant from my part. Rant, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of stealing your thunder here, but I was basically telling Flip today about this tweet where there was this Valentine's Day post, Star Wars related, and it had pictures of all of the famous kisses in Star Wars. And they had, Padme and Anakin. They had Han and Leia. They had Hera Syndulla with Kanan Jarrus from Rebels, which I thought that was kind of tasteful. And then they had, Finn and Rose. I'm sorry, I just kind of want to throw up in my mouth every time I think about that kiss scene. Now, as I
Yeah,
was
bro,
saying,
bro.
there was this guy that was supporting the whole um, Rose and Finn thing, and he said that that it also had romance and stuff. And I said, if you look at that scene, at that kiss, now my eyesight is getting bad by the years, and especially holding a lightsaber to my eyes as often as I do in this picture that you can see, it's obviously damaging my retinas, and I don't see properly anymore. So I want you guys to tell me, did I see correctly? Did Finn and Rose have romance? Did they have chemistry, or am I just going blind and insane?
Are you asking if I want to make sure I
Anyone?
got the question right? So you're asking about the Finn and Rose romance?
Yeah, quote unquote romance.
Just our thoughts in general. Is that I want to make sure I heard you right?
Yeah. So basically, the question to reform it properly is: do you think that Rose and Finn work better than Han and Leia, for example?
Rose and Finn are garbage. That I can sum it up right there. That's all I have to say about it. It's garbage.
Thank
It's just
you.
complete
Hell
garbage.
yeah.
I mean, he this is a guy. He went on to say that, hey, I said that this kiss is so obviously forced, and he said it's not forced. And I asked him, have you ever kissed a woman, and I mean legally, and with her consent and not against her will, eh? It doesn't count if you sexually molest a woman, So he said, are you calling me a sex offender? And that at that moment, I knew that I was talking to an SJW. So he did his Han Solo cosplay, but yet again, he defended Rose over Han and Leia, calling their chemistry forced and disdainful. And basically, I told him that, hey, while you're at it, leave Princess Leia to me because I think that she's hot, and you can go back to showering with Chewbacca. And long story short, he blocked me because that was too salty. I don't know.
It's always
But
weird.
but these are the kind of people that we're dealing with. So to return to my original thing, where you said that you don't like the prequels, I can totally respect that. I can respect a sequel lover. I would have even respected if you said that you like the sequels as well. But as long as we're civil about it, it's okay. Because Obi-Wan said so uncivilized, and I cannot deal with uncivilized people right now. And those are on the sequel trilogy corner. I have a lot of things issues with the prequels as well myself, and I can understand where you're coming from. It was a very good story told wrong, and there were a lot of problems, but still, right now, I believe that even you can agree that you'd take the prequels over the sequel trilogy anytime.
That's the oddest thing about this ever in my mind. I mean, I'll be very brief here, but my history with Star Wars is I grew up on it. I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater on its first run. That was my first time seeing a Star Wars film, so I'm an old man. But when the prequels came around, I was pumped. I was way into it. And Phantom, of course, let me way down. And then it just kept going. And I just never understood the support and the hype for Sith, because to me it's just as awful as the other two. I don't understand why people praise that one more, but that's cool. So I got turned off of Star Wars completely for a good 10 years. I wanted nothing to do with it. I have my original trilogy. I'm good. I don't need to have any more Star Wars in my life. I'm fine. Everybody else can just have what they want. But then Disney came around with Force Awakens, and I couldn't help it. I got excited again. I'm like, okay, this could be different. It looks like they're going to be doing the right thing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where I come from with this. And so, hold on for me one sec. I apologize.
Sure thing. So to quote Obi-Wan, we were all deceived by a lie, just like he said to Padme.
Sorry about that, but yeah, that's the thing is I never thought I would like Star Wars again, really, and then they got my hopes up again, and so
Only to crush it.
yeah, and so I really wanted to love the films and everything, but that's the strange thing. Now, going back to your point, is I'm now at a spot where I would rather take the prequels. I'd rather watch a prequel over what's going on now. And for me, I gave you that background to let you know that's saying something, because I just wanted nothing to do with it anymore. But yeah, at least you have George Lucas, the original creator, trying to tell a story that it makes more sense, the story itself. But the problem is the final product. I can't deal with it, because to me, the biggest problem with those films is off camera. It is George Lucas wouldn't allow himself to be in a group of people that could tell him, no, maybe we should try this. He wouldn't do that. And that ruined the whole trilogy for me. So,
that I agree with you. I completely agree with you. That's one of my issues. But to justify it in a way, I'm going to try and use logic and not feelings, because facts don't care about feelings.
That's right.
When George Lucas was on that storyboard, could you just put yourself in your position? Okay, you've been hired by Lucasfilm to make a film, and you know at that moment that you're going to be in the same storyboard with George Lucas. You've idolized the guy for 30 or something years, or 10 or 20, depending on your age, and you realize that you're going to be working with him to make the prequels. Now, when you are working with the creator of Star Wars itself that you loved as a kid, and you can't believe your luck that you're working on the story of the prequels, basically. Would you have done it any different? I mean, I can understand there were people that said, "Hey, I was working with George Lucas. Whatever he said, I couldn't say no to the guy." You know, I know that it's not great. Hey, Angus.
Hey. How's it going, Angus?
Oh, we got those two
What's
bald
up,
guys.
Bag?
All right.
What is up, Angus?
Now that I have Angus on, I can say that I have a very diverse panel, so that should appease my SJW overlords for today.
Your panel was already diverse with me here, bro.
Yeah, but
No, but
I mean,
now we have someone.
We don't
color.
need another darkie. We don't need
Now
another
we-
darkie.
Well, now you have an Angus of color.
I have an Angus color.
There you go.
I told Dez that we're on. I don't know if he's going to show up, so that might help. Maybe we'll get our numbers up.
I'm telling you this right now, Angus. If this turns into a horror movie, you're going first, because you're the second black guy to come in. So
Hey, Jay.
I'll go after you, though. That's what happens.
Hey,
You'll be
Jay.
waiting in the bush.
You can forward the link to him, Jay, to Dez.
Yeah, I let him know. I sent it to him. I don't know. He's got some stuff going on today, but hopefully he can show up. But yeah, he knows. He may not have seen it yet, but I sent it off.
Okay.
All right. So, as I was saying, Angus, we were talking about the prequels, and Jay isn't quite a fan, to say the least. And I can understand where it's coming from. A lot of people don't like the prequels, and some of them have been more civil about it. Some of them have been, I hate everything about it, and just ranted on and on about it for years. And I believe that George Lucas wanted out and sold his property to Disney. He's like, okay, you don't like it? Okay, fine. Let's see what Kathleen Kennedy's going to do with it. I think that George Lucas kind of knew all along. But I'm going to make a video topic on that and elaborate on that later. But
I don't know about that, to be honest.
I really don't believe on it that much. That I don't think that you'd sell your baby to white slavers, as he said, because some idiots on YouTube gave you flack for it.
Well, yeah, I don't think that's the only reason, but I think ultimately, whatever his reasons were, he decided that he was done. But the reason I'm saying I don't know if I agree is because when I watched the interview where he's with Kathleen Kennedy and they're sitting around that table with the interviewer, and he's talking about how he's handed over everything to her. To me, he seems like he really trusts that she's going to do everything that she says.
Exactly.
And then I feel like the actions afterward that he's had, where he's kind of said, "This isn't where I would have taken it," and he's tried to be very PR. I think that shows, to me, just my perspective, of course, but to me, I think it shows someone who was betrayed a bit. But that's just my interpretation. So that's why I say I disagree. But it's just body language reading. You and I are seeing.
Well, your interpretation is not needed. You are a white dude, and you're not looking at this intersectionally. So.
Oh, damn! You're right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to mute for the rest of the stream. I'll just put on.
Hey, is is anyone here in this panel a transgender? Because I could really get my numbers skyrocketing, a bit.
I could put on a wig and a dress for you if you want, bro. I mean, I could
That's the
try.
start.
I will call my doctor right after this.
But
I'll get that done
I'm
for you
keeping the
next
beard.
time.
I'm keeping my beard though, so
Yeah,
like
I
that's
need
the bearded
diversity.
lady.
That sounds sexy. But I didn't mean to derail you from your point there, man.
Oh man.
So let's just take a moment to say hello to some people in the comment. Exaggeration Nation, uh, hello. He's one of the funniest guys I've seen on YouTube after Flip because he really is very flexible with his humor and he can take a joke. And today we are living in a society where people get triggered before they get the joke. So I want to thank the Lone Wolf Cub for coming in again, and Rev Kev. Thank you everyone for joining and coming in. So
What's up, Rev Kev? Hey,
yeah, we got Rev Kev in here. Very cool.
Hey, Rev Kev. I don't know what happened to the stream earlier, man. It kicked me out and off and all that. So next time you have another one, dude, I'll hop on. Good to see you, though.
Hey, Rev Kev.
So, as I was saying to before you jumped in, Angus, and I also want to hear your perspective on this, your opinion. I was asking Jay. He said that the prequels had a problem with George Lucas monopolizing the storyboard, and I also have a problem with that, despite liking the prequels. You think about it. I said, just put yourself in the position of anyone that got hired by George Lucas to help work with the story. Um, you realize that you've been hired by the creator of Star Wars, something that you obviously love, and you're working with this guy. And then when he asks you for an opinion, so what do you think we should do with the story? And you go like, oh yeah, we should do that, even though if it's stupid for the story or even if it's bad. You will say yes to the creator because you'd be like, yeah, I can't say no to this guy now. I might get fired or I might, make him feel bad and he's old. And I mean, people might have thought of that way, and that's what I believe why he was surrounded by total yes men. I'm pretty sure that they might have thought of a different story or something better, maybe even worse. You don't know, but that's what I believe. I will always say this, but he wasn't completely surrounded by total yes men because this other guy got the creative idea for General Grievous over this toilet spray thing, his mask. So George Lucas didn't create General Grievous, one of his story member guys did. Although he was wasted as a villain in episode 3, he was more expanded upon in the Clone Wars by Dave Filoni. He saved that.
That's the more important part, I think. Yeah, he's not used well, though, even if he didn't create
Yeah, that's one of the problems with the original trilogy. Sorry, with the prequel trilogy characters. They get kind of wasted.
See, I would actually disagree about Grievous being expanded in Clone Wars. I think because it's like a prequel to a prequel in essence, there's certain like threads and stuff that focusing on these characters you've seen, you know where they go. Like Anakin and Obi-Wan makes sense, I guess. But having so many, especially Grievous, I think kind of hampers the storytelling because no matter what you do with Grievous, it's like, oh man, he's gonna get away somehow, and so they engineer him to be like this coward, um, as opposed to like before in the original cartoon and in some of the one of the stories I read before episode 3. I think Mace Windu came across him, and it didn't feel like he was a coward. It felt like he was like a sly guy. Like he would definitely fight to live another day. But I think the Clone Wars kind of hurt his story arc.
I like the introduction of Grievous in the original animated Tartakovsky or whatever his name was. Tartakovsky, whatever his name was in the cartoon, the 3-minute shorts they put out in 2003, I think.
2002. 2002.
Yeah, it was definitely like early 2000. Yeah, that was awesome.
They made him such a beast, and they were all freaked out, and they were surrounded by droids. And I thought, oh, great. When we get to see Grievous finally, he's going to be a beast and wreck the shit out of the Jedi. They kind of toned him down like a lot for the movie, which was a bit of a bummer, but I still loved him. I still loved Grievous.
Yeah, I just wish we got to see more of Grievous. I mean, it was so... They really should have had more of the actual war in the Clone Wars. I mean, I know we've said this a billion trillion times, but It would have been cool to have General Grievous already in there in episode 2, and then they could have killed him off at the beginning if they wanted to even. I mean, just, flip the story a little bit around, like how Palpatine used that, like, oh, they sent your master instead of you. They could have just had him say that at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
But it should have been hard to kill him. Like Obi-Wan just shooting him. I mean, it's cool. I got it. It works. It did work. I mean, I don't dislike the scene. I just wanted to see him like be grabbing one Jedi's head with his foot and flinging him while he's beating the crap out of another one, like in the cartoon. I was like really looking forward to that. Because he doesn't have force powers, so.
When I had no background with General Grievous, because I haven't watched the Clone Wars in any iteration. I know that's probably blasphemy on this panel, but but yeah, I hadn't seen any of it. So for me, going in and seeing Grievous, really, I knew of him, of course, but going in and seeing him in action for the first time, I thought the character just was not good at all. Honestly, he was very weak, and so to hear that it was a strong character by a lot of people's opinions, and now it's not. That's disappointing to hear, because I didn't know that really going until now.
Well, if you check his Legends depiction, he was completely a beast. Basically, if you check his storyline, he it's quite amazing. So I like storytelling. Basically, General Grievous was this he was a leader to his type of people. The Kaleesh, and he was at a war with this insectoid species called the Huck. And what happened was the Kaleesh, they were warmongers. They were good at fighting and stuff. They were tribal warriors, and they were very honorable. And General Grievous was already a general at the time, but his name was Kwamanja Shalal. And what happened? He had a woman that he loved called Rodaria, and she was killed during the conflict. A few years later, they were close to defeating the insectoid Hux and driving them off the planet because they were invading General Grievous's planet, which was Kali. And eventually, what happened? The Huck went to the Senate and they pleaded a case against the Kaleesh and twisted the facts. So the Senate blindly, under Valorum, sent these Jedi to basically kill and cut down the armies of General Grievous at the time. So hence his hate for the Jedi, and you can understand why he hates them so much. And because he blindly trusted the Republic. So long story short, he was about to embark on a ship, to go and face the enemy, and it just gets shot down, and he's just like in this very critical situation. Half of his torso is remained of his body, and he lost a hand. Kind of a Darth Vader situation, but with a different kind of twist. And it was recovered by Count Dooku, and he enhanced him cybernetically through Geonosian technology and whatnot through Muun funding. So basically, you can see how the Separatists tie into General Grievous's creation. So that's why Legends' depiction of General Grievous makes it so amazing. And the thing with Legends, it's a good story, but people don't have the balls to tell it and make it canon.
Yeah, and I've never read a ton of the books or anything, but from what I know of them, there are some great stories in there, and to just throw them off. And I understand they're taking pieces from them and things. That's fine, I guess, but it doesn't really go the distance it should, I don't think.
I would love to see them come up with a character that is cybernetically enhanced, but also has the Force, like a real machine, like a real Force imbued machine that can do what Grievous could do, but also what Vader could do. That would be a neat bad guy.
So the Force is attributed to the technical side of the cyborg or whatever he is, and not the organic side like it is typically. Is that what you're saying, pretty much? Like the machine part, in Force imbued in it, instead of the human part.
Well, that's not how it can't happen.
Yeah, it would be in the physical
side. Interesting idea to have Force in a machine. That's interesting to me.
Well, no, it would be that's an interesting idea. That would be like a droid with the Force. That would be a trip. Right. I'm not sure. I mean, hey, Stranger Things, right? If George said it so, I would probably be on board with it. Man, how cool would it be? I mean, that is one of the things that I think George would be he'd be like yay or nay, with this little stamp. But how cool would it be to have George come back for something? I don't know what, like a movie or a show.
Well, he is
Man.
coming back for the Mandalorian. That's what they say.
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Well, he's somewhat contributing to the story. He and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have gotten together on set, and rumor has it that he has been contributing. And there's a picture of George Lucas on set now. George Lucas rarely goes on set unless he has something to contribute. He wasn't there for The Force Awakens. He definitely wasn't there for The Last Jedi. So, yeah, it makes sense.
I knew he went on set. I didn't realize they were collaborating. That's really something else, man.
Well, if that's happening, yeah, put him in a producer seat or whatever you got to do to have him consult. I think and be part of that process in some way. I'm all for that. As long as he's not the only one, because I guess going back, Qatar, you were saying that you could see that putting yourself in employee shoes, you wouldn't want to say no to George Lucas. I totally get that. I'm on board with that, but I don't think that extends to the higher up. I'm talking like the McCallums and that kind of stuff. They should have been able to tell him no, and I don't get the feeling that they did at all. So I think on that level, he should have been more accepting, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But all that being said, I think that's the perfect spot for George Lucas these days. Like, George Lucas should be creatively involved in some way. I just don't want to see him be the sole source of that creativity anymore, because I think he needs help. And I've always found, for me personally, I like collaborating with other people and getting other people's inputs. So not everybody's like that. So I find it hard to look at the situation and go, why wouldn't he want to just get some input? I would, but everybody's different. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
In episode 5, I think he was the least involved of all the movies, and that's considered the best one. Although, he did episode 4, and it's great, but it's a very simple story. And even then he had help with editing and with, I think, Spielberg helping like keep the studio like, hey, stay on board with this. This is going to be good. This will work out. Despite the delays and stuff in the budget. I don't know. I definitely agree that George shouldn't have had a bunch of yes men around him. I don't know if that was intentional or not. If you see like some of the creations like Grievous, he'll see inspiration from other people's work and be like, hey, like, you know what? Keep working on that. You got something here. And so like George is open to like let people develop stuff that he didn't think of and retool a story. And he would take outside advice or criticism, clearly with Jar Jar, a great example, from what he wanted to do with what he did after episode 1.
Yeah. They listened to him. They're like, fans said, we want less Jar Jar, and he gave them less Jar Jar. George always listened to his fans.
Yeah. The one thing though with talking about Disney acquisition stuff, people don't realize this. A lot of people don't, at least. George Lucas has been involved with Disney for years. I remember watching this thing about like failed or undeveloped theme parks and stuff at Disney, or like attractions, and there was supposed to be an alien attraction, but aliens, way too perverse, given the like art origin from Geiger and whatnot. And so they retooled it into like this really wonky alien ride thing. Wasn't very successful. That was back in the 90s. He helped develop Pixar, and of course Disney bought Pixar before he got rid of Star Wars. I don't know if he realized, like, Kevin Kennedy was around for so long with Lucas, so I don't know why this would be such a shock to him. Her kind of intent with Star Wars, her ideology. I don't see that being a shock. I really think George saw it like, you know what, people think they want something, but they're going to regret it. I think he was aware to some degree, at least, and given all of his workings with Disney, I think he knew, regardless if he knew what Kennedy would do with the agenda stuff, I think he knew that Disney would whore out his product. And so he knew people would get exhausted by it, that wouldn't have the imaginativity of an independent creator. It'd be very corporate made. And so he's like, hey, I'm just going to fucking take the money and run. I'll donate most of it or all of it to charity. I got plenty of money myself already. I'll just get a fat paycheck and they'll run this in the ground and everyone will miss me. And only someone like Rian Johnson can make you can live up to any sort of clout with fame, like Lucas, but for a totally different reason. His is infamy, as opposed to Lucas's true fame. It's like, that's the highest bar you can set now. Is people like Ryan Johnson just like how much can they fuck this property up? No one's going to be able to match Lucas, and so JJ's got such a tremendous burden that he kind of set himself up for.
True.
Yeah, gonna be interesting, that's for
But
sure.
another thing that kind of backfired on Lucas was that at the time that he was creating the prequels, there was no one around to direct it. He had friends like Zemeckis and Ron Howard, and he asked them to direct. Even Spielberg, and they all declined because they said, "Hey, I can't take this project up." And this is basically what's happening to JJ. He was confident that he could make, you know, he could contribute to this trilogy, and now he's kind of stressing. We don't have a title. We don't have a teaser trailer for it. We can see that not only Disney but also JJ is reluctant to release this right now.
And what hurts is this is so easy to have been avoided, honestly. It
Yep.
didn't have to be. Even with Force Awakens, keep it exactly as it is. Okay, I would rather have some changes, sure, but let's just keep it the same. It wasn't hard to springboard off of that and do something. I mean, why not use JJ's outline? To me, as soon as, no matter who it was, Ryan Johnson, whatever, but as soon as someone comes in and goes, nah, you guys had somewhat of an outline, that's the best thing you got trying to set this up, I'm going to take whatever little foundation we have and screw that. To me, I would have been like, whoa, hold on. No, you need to at least, you can make your own story. You got plenty of space here to make your own creative story. You just got to hit these couple beats and everybody's good. That's all we got to do. But they couldn't even do that. So to me, it's like this was so easy to avoid. So I really don't feel any sympathy for JJ and his crew, where I would have in a different situation. I totally would have. But now this, it's like, no, you guys didn't have to go this way. It did not have to go this way. So easy to avoid. Anyway, I
Yeah,
kind of ranted a little bit.
I don't have sympathy for JJ because he was a producer on Last Jedi. He came out and said whether this was just trying to like play ball with Disney and make it seem hunky dory. He's like, I wish I directed this film. It's so good. The script's so good. He shilled for it so hard. And also, he came out and like, oh, Star Wars fans have a problem with women. So like, yeah, he's just as much a problem for this as Ryan and Kathleen. It's just he has the saving grace of making a pretty well received Force Awakens, which is a good soft reboot. It's okay. It's understandable.
Did its job.
Side. But you'd say side.
I did want to. Oh, go ahead, man. You breaking up, I guess.
No, I said it's I. It's all right. Side.
Oh, it's I.
Or-
It's I. One guy who never was a yes man really to George Lucas was John Knoll, the special effects supervisor.
Yeah.
Is he the one who came up with the Rogue One story? That guy?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay,
Really cool guy.
Yeah, seems like it.
But what's odd about it is maybe, because he did allow some of the crazy things to go on. I guess he didn't protest too much. But, like Jar Jar, oh my gosh. And so, and there was a heavy use of CGI, which I believe, they came up with the original CGI, right? Him and his, or ILM or whatever.
They came up with using it the way we know it now. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess I can forgive the overuse of it. I'm not so sure that John Knoll would have protested because he probably also had a bunch of yes men. So to say he wasn't protesting it might be a moot point, because if he was one of the guys perpetrating the use of it, then I guess that doesn't make a difference. But
well, and this could be my own interpretation. Again, I could be wrong, but when I used to watch like the behind the scenes of the prequels and stuff, when I would see him in certain shots, to me, I interpreted his body language as he does not agree with what George Lucas is saying at all, and he wants to say something, but there's just this look on his face, like, because George turns around a couple times during these things and he asks, what do you guys think of that? And they all kind of look at him like, that's great. And that's what I'm talking about. There's like moments like that with him where, again, my own interpretation, I feel like he really does want to say, well, what if we just kind of did it a little more like this? But he doesn't. And so, again, just my own. I could be way off on that. But I thought it was great when he did Rogue One, because I thought to myself, he's probably had this idea forever. And who knows if he ever even brought it up or not. I mean, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but it's interesting to think about anyway. To me, anyway.
Jay, I heard a long time ago, and I heard rumblings of John Knoll wanting. He had a movie idea. Now I couldn't tell you exactly when. Was it near, 5 years ago or something? Maybe. But I do remember hearing something about it. Maybe in an online news thing or something. And hey, you know what? It ended up being the best thing that Disney's done so far, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. Jay, what did you think of Rogue One?
Oh, I like it quite a bit. It's one of those things where I go like, I'm back to being an original trilogy guy once again in my life here, but I'm like, but I'm cool with Rogue One. I'll let it slip. I thought for the most part, it was really good, and it had more to like about it than to not. So I agree. It's the best thing they've done so far. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that we almost didn't get the Darth Vader scene at the end. If that hadn't happened, I don't know if I'd have had the same reaction to it. But it was a strong movie, and they did the right thing killing everybody off. I'm not so sure it's a good idea to come out with the TV show where they backtrack to Cassian Andor and his spy stuff. You hear about that?
I did, and I just don't think the character's fine in the film, but I think I'm just probably echoing what everybody else has probably said already, and that not him. That's not the character you do that with. No one cares about that character. Do that with another character that someone might actually. I see that maybe more with Poe or something. I'd be more interested in that, or the background of Finn. Let's get into Finn a little bit and see what he was like when he was a stormtrooper and all that. I'm not saying I want that. Ideally, I don't want any of that. I'm just saying I'd rather have that than Cassian. It's like, Cassian, who cares? So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird choice, but we should be used to that with Disney by now.
Dude, it's funny. It's funny you say Poe because I haven't read any of the comics. Only Marvel Disney comics I've read for Star Wars is Vader, and they actually do a good story with them so far. What I've read, because if you fuck up Vader, you're dead. Um, but it's funny with Poe. Like, I don't get anyone's fascination with Poe Dameron. He's like a Mary Sue pilot. Besides him getting captured, like everything just kind of goes his way. Before Last Jedi, where they try to make this like feminist workplace allegory with him and Holdo for no reason, when he's already subservient to a woman under Leia. Um, but I've never liked Poe. I don't know. I would like to get y'all's thoughts on, because I feel he's just like the perfect, like, they try to plug him as kind of a Han Solo, but Han Solo like doesn't always get stuff going for him. He's always fucking up with his piece of shit Millennium Falcon. It's always crapping out on him, and he has to improvise. That's what makes him cool, is that he has to like make up for shoddy equipment and stuff. And he gets captured. He gets put in carbonite for 3 years. And it's like I don't get why people love Poe. He's just a diversity plug, in my opinion.
Well, I can't disagree with that, but I think where I'm going back is for me, I've only seen Last Jedi once. I started watching it a second time and I couldn't do it. So my only real like exposure to Poe is from Force Awakens, and I agree with everything you just said. But I think my brain goes into there was potential for him to be something different there. So if we're talking about a TV series about a character, I'd rather go with Poe and see what they can do with him than boring Cassian that was good for what his function was in the film, but I don't care. So that's all I'm saying. But I don't disagree with anything you just said. I don't want a series of any of these characters, but I just don't get the sense in Cassian. I mean, for the reasons you pointed out, yeah, I guess Poe wouldn't make much sense either. I guess I just keep going back to that. Well, the only Poe I know is what was starting to maybe be a cool character before they absolutely stomped on it. So.
Oh, well, just to add, it's funny you said Poe. I meant to say this. Poe would actually be a cool backstory, just to maybe justify, maybe make me like him finally, if he actually gave
There
him
you
like
go,
some
yeah.
hardship in his story, before he became like this ace pilot. Uh, Cassian has a cool like tone to him. The idea of uh, contrasting the evil empire with morally objectionable um, paths that the rebels will take to win. They show that with like Saw Gerrera a little bit, where it's like he's a bit too extreme. But you see it with Cassian, where like he's willing to like kill a guy if he's hurt and can't get through this mission. Is like, oh, he's a liability. better kill him. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. It kind of shows that like there's no good side to war. They have little hints of that in Last Jedi too, with Finn's realization of like the good guys, bad guys. It's all like a ruse. It's war. But then they just double back against that and like, no, good guys, bad guys. It's a clear cut line, and so there's potential to make me interested in Cassian, but it's just such a boring character outside of the tone he has.
I think it kind of just comes down to I don't want to see series about any of these characters. I think that's really the bottom line. It's like they've all got their, maybe that could be intriguing, and they've all got their, yeah, that part sucks about the character, but I don't really want to see any of it. I don't know.
Unless they're not interesting.
What about the other guys who haven't said anything? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'd say that if you want to make a series, any series on any character, you'd have to have a backstory on them and make them compelling and interesting. Cassian wasn't interesting. He was expendable. He was just a character just for fodder, just like the rest of the Rogue One. That's what they all were. And I was kind of glad that in Rogue One that they died, because I was like, oh god, we're not going to have another character that was supposed to be before the original trilogy, and we think to ourselves, oh, why don't we see him in the original trilogy? And they try to give a in-movie explanation of why they didn't make it. And I thought to myself when I saw Rogue One, okay, yeah, this is all compelling and stuff, and really, the Death Star plans, okay, you all have to die and make it look like a sacrifice. And when they did it, I was like, okay, I buy it.
Yeah, it needed to end with them all gone. If it ended any other way, I probably would not have liked the film. Other than the Darth Vader scene would have still been cool, but it's like, yeah, it definitely needed that for sure. And I'm glad they decided they had to do that as well.
At least they kept it. But that was just before The Last Jedi, my friends. That was way before Rian Johnson came into our lives.
I would prefer a Chirrut Imwe, a backstory on him, and maybe Baze, Malgus, when they're guarding.
Yeah.
Maybe they even get to meet Jedi or freaking find a.
In Disney's world, my friend, they're obviously having a gay relationship, and they're actually the reason why they hate the Empire is the way the reason what Disney would do. They would be like Baze and Chirrut would hate the Empire because they wanted to have a foursome with Tarkin and that other stormtrooper, and that Tarkin and the stormtrooper said no, so they hate the Empire now. That's Disney's vision.
Well,
sad, but you're right. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, if Disney wants to really never get a movie in China again with Star Wars, that's the way to go. Like, how people think Trump looks at Mexicans. That's how like Chinese people feel about like Southeast Asians, about like Vietnamese, Thai, etc. That's like the gutter for them as far as like, conflict of race or whatever. So the fact that they try to push Last Jedi with a black lead and a Vietnamese actress love interest to China, it's like, what? They hate black people. They don't like Vietnamese people, and you're having them in a relationship or a potential. And so it would really fall on its face if they made Baze and Chirrut gay. So that's that would really kill the Chinese market for them.
Oh God.
Yeah, but at the same time, they don't care because they have a message to convey about equality and love.
That is way more important than making money for your business, hands down, definitely.
Yeah, because
hey guys, I just have a quick question for like about the Mandalorian. Why didn't they make it about the Mandalorian that's Force sensitive?
Like the old Jedi, the first Jedi Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You're saying why don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? I mean, there's not enough Jedi or Sith in anything Disney's doing.
Exactly my point. They're trying to stay away from it. And it's like that's what everyone really wants. They should have at least either that or back in the day when they were hunting Jedi. I mean, you can't go wrong with having Mandalorians when they were at their, like, as you could say, primal state. You know what I mean? Hunting down Jedi for sport.
Dude, I have to disagree with you. I'm sorry, I have
Yeah.
to disagree with you. I really need to see another scene where Han and Chewie take a bubble bath together. I really need to see that. I don't
That
want to
is
watch.
vital.
Guitar,
Yeah.
you honestly had me thinking you were going to say something. Like I'm sitting here like, wait, what? I was like, screw that bubble bath. What the fuck? You tricked me. You tricked me. Like you seriously did.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get my audience diverse and my sub count up. So if I just pander to the shills, maybe I can go up.
I'm gonna have to work on a picture for you of them in a bubble bath now, just for you, my friend.
Okay, I got a
Oh
question.
man.
When
Okay,
everybody
go
think
ahead.
of Solo, I got to hear what everybody's thoughts on Solo were. Anybody? That good, huh? Does that sum it up for everybody on the panel here?
I was actually kind of aroused when I saw Chewie's furry legs behind Han's.
Oh boy. I'm sorry I asked now.
I
I
gotta be
honestly,
honest.
I was turned off from like just knowing about it.
For as big as Chewie is, I thought we'd probably see a little something hanging, but I guess not.
Oh wow. Swinging past the knees, swinging past the knees.
And then you see
Never.
some of these shows be like, okay, Kathleen, I came up with a great idea. What? We need a Star Wars documentary on Wookiee biology because we don't know what the genders are, and we definitely need transgender Wookiees.
Yeah, because
Oh man.
we only have footage of them in their home life, right? That's about it. We don't know any other thing about them. We just know
Yeah.
that they watch some
Yeah.
strange stuff.
Well, and don't make them angry.
True.
You rip your arm out of
Yeah.
your sockets, man.
Guys,
They're
this
known
one
to do
was
that.
it was to me, to say the
Oh
least,
man.
it was harmless. I'm going to say harmless in the sense that I didn't go in with an expectation that it was going to be good. I knew that it was going to suck. But I said, "Hey, it's Han Solo. How can they screw that up?" And thankfully, Disney answered that question for me. How can you screw up Han Solo?
Oh,
And
you're
for
by
that,
yourself. You're by yourself. We'll name you Solo.
Yeah, that was
Like
awful.
what? Oh
I
my
wonder
god!
if you. I
It's
want.
funny. It's funny. I just watched. I was curious because I went to Half Price Books and I finally found a copy of the AC/DC soundtrack to Iron Man 2. And I'm like, I haven't watched Iron Man 2 in a long time. I know a lot of people hate it, so let me watch it. And my brother-in-law actually was over, so we were watching it with the kids, and it was a fun time, And I was remembering, like, dude, I was so hardcore into Iron Man, and then the second one came out, and I'm hardcore into AC/DC, so it was like a marriage, perfect marriage. And and I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of goofy stuff, but I kind of wish Marvel would go back to this kind of like, this is a comic book movie. Like, I like serious shit, I like Winter Soldier, I like Civil War, Infinity War, Dark Knight, etc.
No,
But like,
no.
this was
Actually,
just fun. And there's a joke in there that I'm like, oh my God, I bet Jon Favreau wrote this and he probably thought he was going to be so cool that he wrote this. Like, I can't wait for Samuel Jackson to say this line when Nick Fury pops in. He's like, "Mr. Stark, I'm gonna have to ask you to exit the donut," because he's sitting inside a donut eating
Yeah.
donuts, and it's like it's hilarious, but it's like a lame dad joke, and I'm like, this is amazing.
well, Angus, as a matter of fact, I'm actually glad to have you on the panel and the rant because you're gonna have to see Captain Marvel for me because I'm a white ass cracker and I'm not allowed in the theater. So
well, can you pay for my ticket? Because I'm not giving them any money. No, I'm joking.
Well, I'm the Barack Obama of the group. I'm actually half white, so I'm too white for the movie, and I'm
Gotcha.
100%
oh,
male, and so
Hey,
oh,
Do you love America?
my grandfather's white, man. I'm Italian, French, Native American. It's just as my mom used to say when I was a child. I'm just lucky she didn't screw a white dude, I guess, and I'd be extremely light.
hashtag more diversity.
Hashtag 50-50 chances.
But no, it's the reason I'm talking about the Iron Man jokes because like it's kind of lame, but it's funny. And then you watch Disney Solo, and you're like, oh, this is just lame. Like
Yeah,
it was
True.
a perfectly
I
it was
mean,
a
I like
perfectly
Iron Man too.
it was a perfectly subpar movie. If it wasn't Star Wars, it might be rated higher, in my opinion. But it's a Star Wars movie, and so I give it like a 5 out of 10. It's just okay. I saw the trailer during the Super Bowl because I'm an Eagles fan and we won. Tom Brady sucks, and
Yes, he does.
they had the scene with like the tentacle monster in space. I'm like, oh my god, they're copying Hellboy. Like, what the fuck? But no one's talking about this. They're copying the Cthulhu monster thing at the end of Hellboy 1, and the biggest problem, just like a lot of prequels, like the original three prequels, even though it's about Anakin's fall and rise as Darth Vader. Um, that's fine, but like especially the Hobbit, when you try to put your main characters that you already know where they go in a tense situation, it's totally deflated. And same with Solo. If they would have made it like a pressing matter, like the state of his girlfriend or something, or someone that Lando's attached to, like someone tertiary that they had to like focus on, like, hey, we have to get them to safety. We don't know if they're going to make it or something, or if it's like, oh, Kira's the key to this story, and then like they yank the rug out from under you and kill her or something, make that like a motivation or something. It would have worked so much better, but she's just kind of in the background. Then she all of a sudden becomes important, of course, because she's a woman. Um, but yeah, that's probably the biggest problem I had. Like, I watched Clone Wars and Rebels, so I knew Maul was in the timeline, and so it wasn't a shock to me that he's in the movie. It's just kind of like, oh, that's cool that he might have a bigger role in a future trilogy of Solo movies. I want to see more Solo, but I want less corporate involvement. I want just give someone free reign, like give someone reign like you gave J.J. Abrams or something. Like just let them make a movie and don't dictate so much. That's the problem with Rogue One. That's why you get this tonal inconsistency with Rogue One, is because of
Yeah.
all the mismanagement. After Gareth Edwards tried to make something like, oh, we need 40 to 60% reshoots, and it's like, what the hell?
Right, and their whole point at that time, anyway, was to make these one-off movies be different. The vision was at the time, and as I recall it anyway, that they were going to hand these off to storytellers and let them do their thing because they were worried about the main saga, and that made a hell of a lot of sense to me. And then it seems like the very first movie they go out with Rogue One, and they just go, "Nah, never mind. We're not doing all of that. We're gonna put our fingers in every little bit of this when we don't need to necessarily." So that backtrack really bothered me because that was the whole point. I thought was to be more creative and do different things, different tones, different whatever. And nope, we're just going to try to make it as much like the original trilogy as possible, which is great, but not when you're trying to do that as your goal. I don't know.
So quick shout out to the comments. Drunk 3PO came in and he gave me some beer, so I'm good. Thanks, man. Thanks for dropping in for my beer run. And if you guys need a beer run in the future for anything like parties, events, or streams, 3PO is the one to go. And also, I also want to say a quick hello to Sith Kryptonian who dropped by. But my Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes notifications came in, and I needed to upgrade my clone squad. Hashtag clones rule. So I kind of forgot about the chat a bit. So I'm very sorry, you guys. But the thing is, Solo, would I see another movie? Would you guys see another movie with the same cast? I mean, I really am interested to see if Lando would actually fuck a gonk droid. I want to see how that works.
I would like to
I
see
really need
Maul.
to see that.
I would like to see where they're going with the Maul timeline or plot, but
That
I mean, other
that
than
could be
that, I
fun.
don't care.
Yeah, I just really didn't see the point in making this thing to begin with, and I did not pay any money to see it, zero. So I saw it once it came out. It was available to me on video. Let's put it that way. I watched it, and I would definitely rather have Solo on in the background than Last Jedi. Like Last Jedi would just bring the whole ambience of my house down to like, I don't know what levels. I don't want that in my house, but I mean, Solo, it's just kind of, yeah, I wish it didn't exist, but it does. So, oh well, who cares? Let's move on.
Did you guys know that when they torture people in camps in North Korea, they actually make them watch Star Wars: The Last Jedi,
Wow.
the whole thing. Yeah, and specifically when they want the information bad and quick, they make them watch the whole Ray. No, so not Ray. The whole Poe and shit, Finn and Rose. What are their names? I'm even forgetting them. So they
Who
actually
cares? Yeah.
they freeze frame that scene. They're like, "Are you going to give me the information?" They're like, "No," and then she lays a kiss on it. They're like, "Okay, okay, okay, all right, okay. I'm saving you. I'll give you the information."
Yeah.
No, it's funny you're saying if Lando slept with a gonk droid. I'm just thinking like if he raped a gonk droid, would it be like gonk gonk gonk?
Oh my.
Bonk. Yeah, no, why not? I mean, what? I mean, hey, oh, I got it, I got it. I really hope a Disney Media Shield is listening to me right now. Brian Young, please focus on my energy. You should, since you have connections to Lucasfilm, we need an orgy where IG-88, um, Forlom, um, what other droid? General Grievous's bodyguards, some B-1 battle droids, and some super battle droids have an orgy with Lando, and they just basically hail him, and they just basically just get him all wet in this robotic oils and stuff, and basically just goes crazy and stuff, and they just have this massive droid orgy. I really, really need to see that. That's
They
what I
should
want to
have it
know
in
in
the
Star
carbonite
Wars.
chamber.
Yeah, oh yeah, they should actually do stuff in the carbonite chamber.
Right. They need to jump down in the carbonite chamber for
And
all that.
one of the reasons why Lando got so rich in Empire Strikes Back is because someone got dirt on him, and then Lando said, "Okay, please, I will do anything that you need for me to for you to keep silent." So they said, "Okay, we have this mining operation. So if you keep your mouth shut, I'm going to make you run it, but you have to keep it under the Empire's radar. That's all I need." And he's like, "Deal."
Sounds plausible. Yeah.
You know what's funny? What's funny talking about like making fun of the whole Pando Lando thing with L3 is if you watch Guardians of Galaxy 2, what's his name? Like the Ravagers, they're at like a robot brothel, and the robots are kind of
That's right.
attractive, and yet L3 is just this ugly, self-made junk. Like part of her body's made out of a an astromech droid and stuff, and it's just like unattractive, unappealing,
You're
as
right.
opposed to it's weird because it's the same company, and like Marvel's
Yeah.
supposed to be the more family friendly, I would think,
If
series,
they were
because
going to
Star Wars,
bother,
has decapitations and stuff, and yet they make
if they
this
were going
just
to bother to do it, they should have made them L3 attractive.
yeah, like sci-fi, quote unquote pansexuality with different species or robots, or whatever. That's not foreign to sci-fi. Like that's the whole point of Blade Runner is questioning consciousness and stuff with robots,
That's not a
etc.
problem. That's not a problem. You see, guys, you can have the most attractive human being. You could bring me one of the hottest girls right now in front of me, and if I ask her, hey baby, are you okay? What do you need? And if she responds to me, equal rights, I swear to God, I'm going to maul her, dissolve her in asbestos, and I'm going to bury her 18 feet deep in the earth so that no one actually finds her. That is one of the most unattractive things that a woman can say. You could be the most beautiful person in the world, man or woman, but when you say I want equal rights, it's off-putting. I mean, this isn't 1824. Jesus, man.
That's the thing that's so interesting to me is I can get a little political on this show when I can on mine, but when you get an attitude of all the time we hear it's 2018, it's 2019, whatever year it is, we don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. What are you doing? It's 2019. But then it tends to be the same people that keep pointing out all our differences. And it's like, wait, which is it? Is it 2019 and we're over this and we're better than this now or not? Which is it? You can't have both. It drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
A rant there. I didn't mean to, but I did.
Yeah, I get what you mean, man. I get what you mean. Honestly, there are times where I just wish like the whole world can turn into chaos so we can just rebuild. I know
understand
it
that.
sounds terrible, but
No,
at least
I
people would have
understand
something to grasp onto.
yeah. It's like you almost want a cleansing fire in a way. It's strange. It's like, can we just get rid of all this and start over again with people that
Yeah.
actually have
Well, in that respect, it'd be great if somebody else just owned Lucasfilm, right, instead of Disney.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't have to agree with me on anything political. I do not care. It does not matter. Just don't inject that stuff in your story and then tell me I'm bad for not agreeing with you. And that's what's happening. So if they could just get rid of that, I don't give it. The truth is, probably all my life, most of people in Hollywood have had complete opposite, views than I do. It hasn't stopped me from praising their work and loving their films and doing all these things. It's like, just don't scold me. I don't
Well,
need to scold.
can I interject? Why you're right, and I'm going to tell you why you're right. You see, Hollywood has always pandered to the left, but Hollywood has also made some movies or TV series or generally had people involved in projects that kind of mocked the left in their own respects. So I just thought of, with the whole Lando Pando situation going on, why we lost our shit when we watched Solo. But it didn't matter, for example, in Futurama, where Bender was having an affair with Amy Wong. Now, the main reason why this works is because Futurama is a parody of, the future and all that stuff. It was created in 1999 and was made, as a parody to make fun of, what we should expect in the future. And that's why it works, And it's not meant to be taken seriously. It's meant to be taken as comedy. Now, Han Solo, on the other hand, the Solo movie is supposed to be canon. It's supposed to be something that we're invested in, and they're making a movie regarding a character that we are invested in, we love the most. That's why it matters, in case anyone was ever asking this question.
No,
In the comment section. I don't know, comment section. What do you guys think? Yeah, we'll just have to wait a little bit. So, yeah, that's it.
I don't know if you guys have seen the latest season of Punisher, so I'm not going to give any spoilers away or anything, but I've seen a lot of backlash against its SJW and all that stuff. Well, I've seen it, and I loved it because there is one character that is blatantly there for those type of reasons, and I could not stand that part of it. But it's one episode, so I forgave it. Because what I saw in Punisher 2, I wish we would see more out there in other films and things. And he's protecting a young girl in this season, and she happens to have all these viewpoints. I guess we can call them what you would expect millennial viewpoints, I suppose. And she ends up in one scene saying something to the effect of, these two guys were gay and that's why they were attacked and da-da-da-da-da. And you almost start rolling your eyes like, okay, you don't know that. But right as you're thinking that, guess what Punisher says? He looks at her, he turns and goes, no, it wasn't because they're gay. How about it was because they did this, 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 and this. And I went, okay, see, this is great writing because you've got two characters with polar opposite viewpoints and they're able to express those viewpoints, and the viewer can then go, okay, what do I agree with or not agree with? And that's how it should be told. So Punisher, backlash aside that I don't necessarily agree with, I thought that's what I'm more used to seeing. I'm a big Trek fan. You can't say Star Trek wasn't infused with politics, and some I don't even necessarily agree with. But it was there, but it was told well. That's the difference. I wasn't being scolded. So anyway.
Oh, said.
Yeah, just to add to the political discussion, the most paradoxical thing about SJWs is they're so concerned with population control, but really they're the population that needs to be controlled.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Because they attack without even they just attack and attack without even thinking. They just, as soon as they get like the slightest bit of something to attack about, they attack.
Well,
they forget that they're the most racist. Sorry, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean it's two very conflicting points of view for sure, and yeah, and one of them is very contradictory to itself, and one isn't. I mean, there seems to be an attitude, typically, generally speaking, of the here and now. What is good for our purpose right here and now, without any regard for how does this permeate out and butterfly effect out to the future. And I think that's the main one of the main differences in thought processes here. But I don't mean to get too much into this here or take it away from what you wanted to talk about. But
no, it's fine.
Yeah, it's just very interesting as a good word, I guess I'll use for it. I killed the chat.
Well said. No, it's, you see, this is the thing with my panel. You don't kill the chat. My guys are so overly polite that basically they just let anyone else hop in. So when we all have the same mindset, we're like, okay, I should let someone else speak, and that kind of generates a little,
I'll second
void.
that.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah. No, it's this panel. I can say the best about my boys, and these guys, they're great when it comes to discussions.
Yeah,
Plus,
hey,
I'm eating rice.
I actually wanted to ask Jay something about his channel.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I've noticed so far, correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all have just covered DC products. Is that just, are y'all trying to just get through the DCEU first and then maybe move on from that, or are you a big like DC comic fan, or?
Well, both Des and I are big DC guys, but we're not versus Marvel guys. I've never, and neither does Des. Neither one of us has ever understood the Marvel versus DC, other than the friendly competition as their companies and whatever. But as far as characters and stuff, no, we didn't pick it because we particularly love DC. We just wanted somewhere to start, and we saw we had Aquaman coming out, and we thought it would time out about right. And so I'm glad you asked, because that actually has been on my mind. We've done a Willow review now because the anniversary, and our Rocky review is coming out Thursday for the kind of anticipation of the Creed 2 video release. So we're moving on to other things. We just started there because we had very strong opinions about those films, and we thought, okay, hey, we're new at this. Let's start with something we're comfortable with. So yeah, I don't want to be the DC review channel, and I don't want to be even the comic book movie review channel. I want to start branching out and doing other things because I just love film in general, not just comic book films. I'm glad you asked that. I appreciate that.
No, yeah, because I saw one of y'all's first videos. Y'all were doing like suggestions to each other and stuff, and like I think a couple of them I didn't know of. I'm like, oh, I might have to check that out. So yeah, I was just interested if y'all are going to do Marvel at all, or if you were like like, yeah, screw Marvel, or if you're DC fanboys or something, even though you have opinions about the movies.
No, we've got a Marvel review. We're doing Infinity War next after Rocky.
Dude.
That'll drop the day before Captain Marvel comes out. So of course we're doing that. So yeah, so we are going to get into Marvel, but we're not going to do them from beginning to end, at least not at this time, because like I said, I don't want to be the comic book movie review channel. So, but we are going to, so we're going to do Rocky, and then our next one is Infinity War, and then I won't spoil too much, but we're planned out for the next like 5 months what we're doing. So we're definitely going to start moving away from DC I take it back. April 5th, we're going to be doing our Aquaman review because Shazam is coming right out after that. But then we'll go away from DC again for the foreseeable future, probably.
Hey, Jay, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How much do you bet that Rocky loses the fight in the first movie?
I'll take that bet.
That's a great question. You know what's so funny, though, is I had not seen it. I know that is crazy, but I'm a Stallone fan. I'm a big Rambo fan. I have not seen any of the Rockies all the way through until we just did our Rocky review, which I know is insane.
That is crazy. That's awesome, though, too. At least you got to watch them all at once.
You're a Stallone fan? Oh, my God. He represents toxic masculinity. How could you? He's not gay. He's not diverse.
Can you believe they let a white man be a boxer?
How could they let a white man be? I'm offended, and I'm white.
Well, he's actually Jewish.
Well, I don't want to give away too much, but it's one of Dez's favorite movies of all time, so I don't think we have a problem with the white.
If I didn't have my story with me right now, I'd melt down.
Hey, Jay, it's funny because, like, okay, so I don't know how much you follow football or sports at all. I'm a huge NFL fan. I'm a Philly fan. Okay, I've seen Silver Linings Playbook. I've seen Invincible, but I have never seen Rocky. I don't really care to because I know the end. I know it's like one of those like yank the rug out from under you type of movies where it's inspirational. And it's like, oh man. I have the first 4 or 5 movie collection on DVD. I plan to watch it at some point just because of like, vigilance of like classic cinema. But, when you've seen $1 Million Baby and The Wrestler, those are movies that definitely have like springboarded from that kind of storytelling of Rocky. When you've seen those first and then you know about Rocky, it's kind of like I don't even care to see it, but I know I need to. But yeah, don't feel crazy because it's kind of required viewing for a Philly fan. Like everyone, like Rocky was our sports hero before we won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think I even have more duty to watch it, and I haven't. So don't feel crazy that you're someone who hasn't watched it until now.
Well, Dez is a big football guy, so you guys would have plenty to talk about. Yeah, for sure. I'm not, but yeah, I get what you're saying. But I will say though, I was surprised by how much the boxing was completely irrelevant. I mean, I understand that the type of story it's telling, everything you just said. I knew that going into it. I got it. But I still was surprised by, like the way Rocky was portrayed. Certain ways, I don't want to give it away since you haven't seen it, but I wasn't expecting that, so that was different. So I thought that was great. And then, like I said, the fight ended up being nothing. It's barely at the end of the movie, and it's a very, very character driven film. And I mean, the first hour, you're just basically following Rocky around and meeting people and seeing where he lives and what his life's like. And it made me miss storytelling like that for sure. It definitely did. But it was different than I expected, knowing about the film my whole life. So I mentioned that to you because it might be the same for you. So,
I mean, the most classic scene is him beating up the dead cow.
right.
Well, just to add to what you said, Jay, if you haven't, I have a suggestion for you to watch. It's a lot like that because as far as character, like there's like an intent that you're watching this movie for, but it's very much character driven. Hacksaw Ridge, Mel Gibson's like claim to fame, coming back after his whole Jew hating debacle from being drunk and saying crap about Jews. It's a movie about, I think, a Medal of Honor winner, pacifist in World War II, who became a medic to help people because he didn't want to shoot people. He's a Quaker, I think, and it's for at least the first hour, it's very much just a character story before you ever get any hints of like war storytelling. And that was probably the biggest surprise to me. Is like, man, this is like quote unquote like a boring movie. I came into this wanting to see, warfare in the Pacific with Marines or Army guys. But I wasn't disappointed, because it finally gets there. But yeah, it's very much the way you talked about Rocky, where like the boxing is kind of inconsequential to the story.
Yeah, I just wrote that down as a reminder because I've been wanting to see that. So I'm really glad you brought it up again. Check.
Yeah, go to your libraries. I tell everyone that if they're getting into comics like I am, always go to your libraries first to save money.
Okay. All right. Yeah, very cool. I appreciate that. I'll check it out. Sure. Another film like that, just while we're talking about, it was a film I was absolutely dead set against. I did not want it to see the light of day. I was so angry it was even being made, and now it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm so glad I was wrong. But that's Blade Runner 2049. That movie,
yeah,
low and whatever, I adored every single frame of that film almost. I just love that film so much. I can't say I like it better than the final cut of the original, but to my own surprise, I have to think about it. And Blade Runner Final Cut is possibly my favorite movie of all time, at least in the top 3 or 5. So that's saying something. But that surprised me, and I loved that about 2049. Is it's just, we're telling a story, and you can come along at our pace or not. And if you don't, oh well, I guess you're going to miss out. I loved that. So hopefully we see that film in the future. I hope.
Yeah, that movie subverted my expectations. I thought it was going one way, and then it's like, holy shit, they're actually teasing a third movie potentially, but like you don't need it. And it's just like, what? Like, yeah, I love Denis Villeneuve. I thought that was a perfect mix with Ridley Scott property and Denis Villeneuve directing it. Because I love Arrival.
I agree. Well, and at the end,
no,
you're absolutely right. Your point of the ending is like when I was watching it going like, okay, I don't want another one, but they set it up for another one. And when it was done, I was like, I don't know. I kind of could do another one now, which I think is a credit to the film. I didn't mean to cut you off though. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. I was just thinking too, we're talking about SJWs and politics and pandering to the left and stuff. There's a perfect movie, I think, that exemplifies how to handle yourself as a creator when you have like a political message or something that's very divisive and how you respond to people. There's a movie I finally watched. I grew up Catholic. my teen years on until I became an atheist. I still
Bless you.
appreciate Catholicism, and there's a movie called Last Temptation of Christ, and for a while I was trying to watch all of the Criterion films, and this is like a very controversial film in that series. And I watched it. It's really freaking long. It's almost 3 hours long. It is a chore to get through at points, but I grew up with this idea from like the Christian right that have like a stereotype of this movie, saying it's it's sacrilegious and this and that. They don't realize how I think you have to be a very devout Christian to make that film. Even if you disagree with it, I think it's a work of love of the Bible, and despite all the controversy it got when it came out, and it still has, I don't think I've ever heard anything about Scorsese shitting on fans, saying that they're bigots or something or anything like that for not seeing the film or being against it, as opposed to a Star Wars film that is just popcorn entertainment as far as the general masses go, and there's such vitriol to the fans if they don't buy into the political messaging of it. And so it's funny because something so much more divisive. Scorsese's been very much a cool cat about it his whole career. He actually got invited by the Pope to the Vatican with his newer film Silence, and they kind of try to rectify the misgivings that they had with him for making Temptation of Christ. So it's a very good comparison. We're talking about SJWs and liberal thinking in Hollywood and how they respond to people.
Yeah, those are great points. I agree. Yeah, and I remember the back when that movie came out. I'm old enough to remember the controversy. It was everywhere. I mean, you could not go anywhere without hearing about it. And I am very devout Christian. It doesn't matter what denomination. But it's funny you mentioned that movie because in the last couple of years, I've read more about what it's actually about because it's not a film I was just interested in. That's why I haven't ever looked it up. But when I actually went to go read about it recently, I was like, this actually sounds like something I'd be interested in to watch, actually, even if I disagree with it. Just as a film, it sounds very interesting. So I'm glad you brought it up just for that point because it kind of adds more weight to that. I think I'm going to check it out here pretty soon. But I don't get offended very easily. I'm very grounded with what I believe and what I don't believe. So a movie showing me what someone else believes about Christ, it's not going to change my point of view at all. I'm going to look at it as a film, and it just sounds very interesting to me. Interesting comparison, though, going to that point. Very interesting comparison. Yeah.
Speaking of Denis Villeneuve, or however you pronounce his name, he's about to redo Dune. Do you have any opinion about that, Jay?
Actually, funnily enough, yeah, I do, because I'm a huge David Lynch fan. Like, I don't think you'll find I adore David Lynch, but his Dune was terrible. He was just the wrong fit. It was a studio trying to do a mainstream film with a director that was never going to make the mainstream Dune they wanted him to make. So it's just an awful fit. I feel the exact opposite with this. I think it is a perfect fit. I can't say I'm a huge Dune fan or anything, but just what I know he can do as a director and his vision with 2049. I'm like, for the first time in my life, I've thought, oh, right, sweet. Let's check this. Let's do this. Let's see what this Dune's going to. I'm excited to see Dune, which has never happened before because I've just never been interested. So that's where I stand. What about you?
I liked the original Dune, but I didn't love it. I was a kid when it came out, and I thought it had potential. And looking back, it did have potential, but I know that they were. I watched this whole documentary about how they actually had a different director, and this whole idea was going to include them having to come up with new ways to do special effects. It was going to be as big as as big of a production as Star Wars, so to speak, with new aliens and planets and using special effects. And I look back at that documentary and I'm like, oh my God, they should have made that movie. They should have made that Dune. Do you happen to remember what the other director's name was, or?
You mean before they got lynched? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
No, I don't remember at one time I did, but it's gone out of my brain since. But yeah, he came in a little later. Yeah, the movie they were planning would have probably been great, but I don't know. It could very well be Lynch's fault for all I know, but he came in, and I can totally see this happening, knowing what I know of his personality, and like he did not want to make the film they were going to make. Honestly, David Lynch, to me, I could be wrong. He comes across as a person as he's not going to make what you want to make no matter what. So he might read the script and go, oh yeah, I love this, but I'm changing at least 20% of it to be more me. I can see that happening, just bottom line, no matter what movie it is. So I just don't think that was ever going to be a good fit. But it just popped in my head. Did you ever see the I think it was 1997, 98, something like that, Dune miniseries they did?
No, I didn't catch that. It seems like I remember hearing about that, though.
I don't remember what channel it aired on. It was a cable channel at the time, and I know it's around on video or whatever now. It's still around. People talk about it every once in a while, but I did watch it, and I can't speak from a Dune fan point of view, but I heard from those people like that love Dune that it was much more faithful to the books, and that even though they didn't love it, it was much better than the Lynch film. And I remember enjoying it much more than the Lynch film. So I was just curious if anybody, you or anybody else, had seen that, because it does come up every once in a while, but it seems to kind of be the forgotten Dune stepchild, I guess.
Really dusting off the old TV shows here, aren't we? I really had that when you were describing. I had that weird feeling of like I was dusting off something really old, but it's the movie that I'm in my head. I'm dusting off because it was okay, it was just okay. But the documentary got me excited about it again and made me think they really had something cool there. Do you think David Lynch changed a real significant portion of it? I can't remember all of the documentary, but from what I understand, they changed a whole lot of stuff. And then they threw Sting in just because, he was popular at the time.
Right. Hey, Patrick Stewart's there too. Don't forget young Picard.
Oh yeah.
Younger. I mean, I can't say it for sure, of course, but being the Lynch fan that I am, I can only imagine that I would not be surprised if David Lynch did a complete overhaul almost from start to finish, or at the very least, he changed about half of it. I would not be shocked at all. And there's just a lot of stuff in the film. I have not seen it in years, so I'm not going to be able to give specifics, but I just remember there were certain scenes, the way things were filmed, certain angles, certain colors, the way the dialogue was delivered, just very Lynchy, if I can say it that way. It just felt, it's like that's a David Lynch edition for sure, without a doubt. And the whole thing overall has a David Lynch tone, which is usually fantastic. But the problem with it for me here is the Lynch tone and the tone that they're trying to go for to tell the Dune story keep clashing, and it makes it, I don't know, it fractures the movie, the storytelling for me. But I don't mean to go off so long. You're trying to make a point here, I think, and I keep cutting you off.
Not at all. No, I guess I brought it up because of Villeneuve. I think he is the perfect director for it. I really do. And I think that what they were going to do, if they do it the way the documentary says it, I think it's going to be an excellent movie. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. And you guys were talking about Blade Runner and the director, so I just thought I'd just angle there with it. But other than that, Dune is sort of just one of those things that's on the back burner in my brain. Like, I don't know, they're going to have to show me something first.
Yeah, if it wasn't for him taking on the project, I would probably have no interest in it, or at least very little interest in it still. So yeah, I think the marrying of him and that project gives it a ton of potential that actually makes me excited to see it.
Yeah, I bought the Dune DVD and tried to watch it with my son, and we fell asleep. It's a super long movie, and it's not exactly action-packed. So
no, it's not.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of confused. Isn't there like two different Dunes? One with like Patrick Stewart from like 79 or something?
No, that's the 85 or 86 or whatever. That's the Lynch film. That's the same one with Sting. They're in the same film. That's it.
Okay. So is that the second version? Like, isn't there two different versions or something?
As far as I know, the Lynch Dune from, like I said, 85, 86, I'm probably getting the year wrong, but that's the first film adaptation. And then the only other one I know of is that miniseries I was telling you about from the late 90s. It could have been 2000, 2001, but it's somewhere around the turn of the century. I know there are other books that they were talking about adapting that had never happened. So maybe that's where that thought's coming from, possibly.
Well, it's funny, you're talking about like older properties. When I was a kid, I always loved watching Thundercats, I think on Toonami. And I watched it again, the original series, some of it as an adult. I'm like, it's okay, But I was looking up because I was trying to figure out who owns Thundercats still. Apparently, it's a Warner Brothers property, and I think it still is. And I was looking up Thundercats Roar, the new Steven
Mhm.
Universe animation style. And I went to Thundercats Roar wikia.com. So I'm going to read this. This is hilarious. Someone edited this, I guess. And yeah, I'm not sure. I'm assuming this is a real Wikia page. It says it's on fandom, but the address says wikia.com. So, Thundercats Roar, also known as Soy Cats Roar XD, is an upcoming television series based on the 85 Thundercat series. It is an infinitely inferior take on the characters and continues the tired trend of bean face animation's dominance in the animation industry. It's possibly more hated than another inferior
Wow.
reboot, which also airs on Cartoon Network, a hub for inspired shit, Teen Titans Go. The project is headed by a self-proclaimed fan of the original series, highly debatable considering the shit they're producing. He or Z, we aren't sure yet. Admins of the Thundercats Roar Wiki are working hard to uncover this individual's gender. Only 10,000 more to go. Thinks it's fashionable to wear a stubby ponytail on his head. Fucking soy boys. I shared this link
Wow.
on Twitter if y'all want to read more. It's hilarious, whoever did this.
Wow. All right. That's,
Oh
that's great.
man, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, someone's not happy about Thundercats coming
But
back. In this.
but the reason I brought that up because talking about Thundercats, I remember apparently James McAvoy is part of trying to make Thundercats a real on-screen adaptation, and I think he was going to cast Panthro as Vin Diesel. I remember looking a little bit into this, and I think Chitara was going to be cast as Mia Jovovich, and so yeah, there's been all sorts of attempts at making this come to life, but it hasn't yet, sadly. And the only thing we got to look forward to is Thundercats Roar, which no one's going to watch.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, all I know about Roar is, I mean, maybe there's more going on and you guys can fill me in here. All I've really heard is that people hate the art style. And so for me, I'm like, okay, you hate the art style. I'm not saying I like or dislike it. I don't know yet. But to me, that seems like that's the only reason this thing's getting all this hate. And so to me, it's like, let's watch it first. And then if the substance of the series has all this other garbage in it that we're fearing it might, then fine. But I don't know. Am I wrong? Maybe I am because I haven't, checked up on what's going on with Thundercats in like 6 months whenever they first announced this, whenever it was. But I thought the artwork was the thing people hated the most. But not that stops what you read from being any less hilarious, because that was hysterical. But I'm just curious if anybody's heard anything else.
Well, like if you see the original Thundercats, or if you even see the 2011 take, which is like a prequel show, there's a clear style to it of like these are men and these are women and these are the kids that still look like boys or girls, etc. And the fact they have this like Steven Universe thing and like Lionel looks like a bitch along with everyone else. I think they removed all the sex appeal of Chitara. I think that kind of reveals itself, like the agenda behind it.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I haven't paid enough attention to the artwork to make a personal opinion one way or the other, but what you're saying in principle makes sense. Yeah.
I think the same Oh no, go on, man.
I'm sorry. I gotta go. Gonna be going to dinner soon.
Sure thing, man.
Getting some chicken
Thanks for
waffles.
dropping in.
No, I'm gonna be eating some steak tonight, buddy.
Damn.
Well, don't forget a side of watermelon.
No watermelon. I like some good old French fries, man.
Hey, Rant, what is steak like? I don't think I've had it ever.
Well, it's good. That's all you need to know.
I think I might have had it once, but it's been so long I just can't remember. Enjoy, my friend. Enjoy.
Thank you, and thank you guys so much again for having me on. And Jay, that's your name, right? Jay?
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, great talking to you for sure.
I will see you guys next time.
All right.
Adios.
Take care, Rant.
Take care, guys.
I think the same people animating that are doing a redo of Scooby-Doo, if I'm not mistaken, and they made Velma a black chick.
Really?
Well, yeah, that's because group
More
of
diversity.
color are they can only have one white person or none, and it's fine. But if you're a group of white people, you cannot be all white or have only nope, that's awful. Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. We live in a strange day. I mean, it's probably said all the time, but it's absolutely mind-boggling to me.
So, is anyone going to see Alita Battle Angel?
Odin was talking about it today. Had all praises for it. Nothing but praises for it today. So maybe.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the kids. I'm probably gonna wait till later in the week just to. I'm waiting on something I have to find out before I use any of my funds, but yeah, I definitely think it looks pretty pretty good movie because people are saying it's a good movie. I thought the very first time I saw the trailer, it looked like, well, I don't know. But now everyone's saying there's not a lot of SJWism in it, so yeah, definitely gonna take Crunchy and my phone.
If it doesn't have SJWism in it, why are you even watching it?
Precisely.
It needs to have soy inside, okay?
That's what good
and
people.
If you don't have money for soy, I'll give you some soy. It's okay. I'll fund some soy. I mean, to think that they think that Captain Marvel and Brie Larson is doing activism when you're getting paid $5 million. That's the kind of activism I'd want to do. But anyway, aside from that, you see Brie Larson when she says, "Okay, I'm doing activism and stuff," and they're trying to do this GoFundMe for these unfortunate little children that supposedly they're raising money for so that they can come and watch Captain Marvel. Now, isn't that hypocrisy? I mean, you're raising money for a kid that is basically starving, but you're going to use that money instead of giving that kid food. You're going to give that kid a ticket to watch a movie that doesn't give a fuck about when his stomach is rumbling from hunger.
Yeah. Yeah, you touched on a good point because at the end of the day, like with the Star Wars stuff and all this, we hate each other now because over Star. At the end of the day, as much as everybody loves Star Wars, it's just a stupid movie. At the end of the day, these are all just movies. I mean, I am, like I said, I love film. I'm way into the arts and stuff, so I'm not trying to belittle that at all. I think it's important to have that in life. But at the end of the day, what's really important is that kind of stuff. And these are just movies, and we're all yelling at each other and all this bad blood. And I don't understand. It's just a stupid pop culture movie about space fights when it comes down to it. And the same thing applies with Captain Marvel. It's a superhero film that will hopefully be good. It won't just be, oh, it's a comic book film, so it only does this. No, hopefully it has some depth to it and whatever. And then, I don't know. It just boggles my mind. I don't know.
But you know, Jay, they attacked us because we didn't like it. And I thought, you know what? After everything that's happened over the last year, that everything calmed down. I mean, there was never a formal apology, although that probably would have helped quite a bit. But then you've got people starting to ramp up the attacking again. You've got Brie Larson attacking people. You've got
Pablo Hidalgo and his wife attacking people.
Yeah, and you've got John Campea also. I know he's not like, but he went through an apology phase where he was crying on camera, right, apologizing to everybody. And now he's back at, just square one, shitting on everybody. And you say, well, we are yelling at each other over a movie. I don't remember anyone from our side instigating a fight. We just said, oh, we don't like it. That's crap. What were you thinking? Why did you do that? We hate it. And then because we disliked it, we've been called every name in the book.
I mean, generally, I agree with what you're saying. I guess I was just putting a blanket statement over it. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I was just, saying like just the arguments in general. I just think are so avoidable, and we're getting hatred from whatever side it's from. It doesn't matter to me which side or what it's about over a movie, But, yeah. But I understand your point. Yeah, and you're right.
No, I wasn't saying you said anything wrong at all. You brought up the point, and we're talking about Captain Marvel. And, Brie is putting her own foot in her mouth. And I'm looking at these. One day you've got an article about how they're going to ruin the opening weekend. And then the next day, today, an article about how it's going to actually boost the opening weekend.
Yeah.
It's conflicting statements.
Well, I can tell you this: it isn't a good thing because it's pissing people off, and in her mind, I'm sure she probably thinks it's the big bad white guy. But I can tell you this right now, and Des wouldn't mind me bringing this up. Des will not see Captain Marvel. He absolutely refuses. He cannot stand her. He cannot stand everything she's saying. He thinks, but I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he won't go see it because of what she's saying and doing. And that's not a 40-year-old white dude. So her whole theory about like, oh, they're so evil and they're causing all these problems. It's like, no, you're pissing everybody off of every gender and every race, and you're pissing people off. And that can't be good for what you're trying to promote, no matter what that is. So, yeah, interesting to say the least.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually plan to do a response video to Thug Life Jeremy because me, him, Rookie, and I think there was a fourth person. We're on Mary Vidalis' stream about debate, and we're discussing the Leia crap with Galaxy Adventures, and I tied in how people try to separate Disney and Lucasfilm because Marvel's been doing well and Lucasfilm has not, as far as respecting the fans. But I see it as I've always seen it as like a cumulative. Like this is all of these little companies under Disney are making Disney money, so like Disney's always going to be vigilant because the end game is money. And I was saying like how has Disney not put a gag order on freaking Brie Larson or told her to like censor herself? Because we're getting all these, reports where it's like, Ethan Van Sciver did a great compilation video of like reports where it's like, oh, Captain Marvel's going to blow up the box office 160 million opening weekend, and then it's dropped down to possibly 80 or less. And it keeps going down because more and more people are seeing in the general public like, holy crap, this woman hates whites and males and yet wants to profit off of a series.
Brie doesn't realize that it's the white males that were buying the comics that were in their mother's basements a long time ago, wishing that they could get a girlfriend as beautiful as her, at least in the comics, because she's ugly in real life. And when she did that whole face with the goblin, I was like, ugh. But she doesn't realize that her main demographic is white males. So it's okay. I want this to blow up in their face, just like it did with Solo, and just like it's going to do with a lot of things. You know what's baffling? They didn't learn anything from the Last Jedi.
I know, it's crazy.
Well, the one thing I want to add is that even if it bombs, we haven't won yet. I think that'll be a good sign. It'll be a good sign when it bombs or relatively bombs. If it makes like 500 million or less, that'll be a great sign of like, yeah, we shouldn't keep doing this crap. And hopefully we'll see like emergency reshoots for her Endgame or something with her character. That'd be great. For whatever they got planned for her, just like fucking fix it. Although I do have trust in the Russos, but they are managed by Disney and Feige. And even if it bombs, we still haven't won because this works into their narrative. Whether it blows up the box office, they'll say, women lead. We need more women in film because look what Captain Marvel did. Go women, we're going to take over. Future is female. But if it fails, they get to use that for another martyr of like, oh, we're even in 2019, we're still dealing with the patriarchy.
And that's what goes back to conflict. Yeah. Yeah, which is like
they've set this up where either way they have a narrative to go off of. Mm-hmm. They would prefer the money making one where it's like, oh well, Captain Marvel, well let's like just throw in a whole bunch of fucking women. Let's just get a Kitty Pryde movie. Let's get Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and this and that. They'll shove that in until it fails, either because they don't care for the character or because of saturation. But because film is all about a copycat league, and I think it'll actually be good if Marvel fails and if DC only lasts a little bit longer. So then we can get back to like studios trying to make real film for the most part, and only leaving blockbusters to like the summer. Because when I saw Endgame or when I saw Infinity War, I loved it. I saw it 4 times, but I'm like, this is the death of cinema because at some point Disney's going to try to like buy theater companies and just control that or make like home theater the real avenue of selling movies. Because everyone's trying to copy them. Godzilla can't just be his own series. They got to make a monster universe. They've tried to do a dark universe. So like, overall, much as I love them, I want Marvel to just fucking implode finally. And if they do it with the SJW route, that's great.
Well,
Well,
Des and I
Jay,
just did. Oh, go ahead, please.
well, I was going to ask both of you this, Angus and Jay, and Katarn too. What do you guys think? Do you think that Captain Marvel defeats Thanos? Do you think she's going to be the saving grace for in Endgame?
You want me to fill
Jay?
this first? You want to go first, Black Angus?
No,
You
no,
want
you
me
go ahead, Jay. You're the newest guy.
to? Yes and no. I think that calling her to come in and save the day at the end of Infinity War, in that regard, she's gonna save the day. But again, I agree with you with the trust in the Russos, and yes, I understand they're still part of that system. But I think at the end of the day, they know what they're doing. They've made enough of these group movies now under their belt. They have two amazing ones, I guess, under their belt now. I don't see them completely going 180 all of a sudden unless that was dictated to them. And I don't see that being very probable either at this stage since they're doing so well. I don't see that happening right now. So, yes, she's going to help save the day, but I don't think it's going to be, at least I hope not, Thanos versus Captain Marvel and everybody else has been floored down to the ground and she's the only one left. Maybe a moment or two, but not in lieu of other people also getting moments like that against Thanos, basically like we got in Infinity War.
Well,
I
if they
hope
played
that's a hope.
smart, if they play it smart, I think that they're going to make it a collaborative effort. Now, I don't know if they're still writing in Avengers Infinity War Endgame, but if they are smart and they pick up on what's going to happen with Captain Marvel and there is a backlash and people disagree with what happened with that movie, they will make it a collaborative effort. If they go full woke, we all know that Captain Marvel is going to destroy the Whammon and knock the nutsack off of Thanos' jaw right off, clean off, because it will be a punch to the patriarchy and all the toxic masculinity and all these men and stuff, you know. So they want that, but it depends. It really, really depends on how Captain Marvel, the movie, the standalone, is perceived. That's what I believe.
Yeah, well, what's weird to me is that Feige's like, oh, she's gonna be the most powerful like Avenger in the lineup, and it's like that is okay, I guess, but like if you're gonna have anyone lead as far as like a trailblazer of power, it should be Thor. For one, he almost had the kill shot on Thanos in Infinity War, but he also has had like the biggest progression of power through the series. He's already he's a god, but he's got checks and balances in that like pantheon. Even though Asgard is gone, you've seen him subjected to just like getting being forced into captivity in Thor Ragnarok. So he's not almighty just out of nowhere, and he's gained his power over a long time and at a great cost through his life with his parents, his people, his friends. He's utterly alone for the most part. I'm sure they're going to rope Valkyrie into this story too and have her be a powerful woman as well. That's fine. Give women
Now
that.
that's a difference. She wasn't portrayed that way in Ragnarok.
I
That's
just
a
really hate that
difference.
actress, and I hate that they are blackwashing. You sure it's the comics, but like I know people who worship like Odinism and Asatru and stuff. So I hate seeing even comics blackwashing. Something based off of like white, historically white religion and stuff as a figure. Like you wouldn't do that if you made some sort of fictitious Marvel universe off of like Hindu gods or something. You would not whitewash those. And you wouldn't expect them to, but it's okay if they blackwash. And I'm a black guy, so like I don't like that. I think it's disrespectful, despite it being fictitious comics. But yeah, I'm fine if they rope in, Valkyrie, whatever. That's fine. But it's just really weird if you go from like Marvel's really mismanaged this whole last year. They should have had Captain Marvel come out in November. There's a huge void after Ant-Man and the Wasp that Marvel could have put her out earlier. Let us adjust to her. They'd have time for any emergency reshoots if we don't receive her well to retool her story with Thanos. if she actually crosses paths with him. And the fact they set this up where it's like Ant-Man and the Wasp is such a tonally off movie right after Infinity War, even though it leads back into that story. The end credit scenes for the Infinity War tie-in were just so like, what? It's so out of left field with the rest of the movie. And you have this void, and you got Captain Marvel in April, and then Infinity War in, or sorry, Captain Marvel in March, and then Infinity War, or wait, what is it? Endgame in April. It's just like, what are they doing? You know? And then like the only character I know that they're like throwing in for the future is Shang Li, I think's his name, Ching Li. It's just
Oh,
like
right.
they're
Yeah.
talking about diversity and stuff from Marvel, and you're doing a Black Widow movie after all this time. Like, I almost don't buy Black Widow doing this shit just because she's probably pushing 35 or 40 now. And it's like, too little, too late.
I just don't think a movie with her is even necessary. I like her and the team. I think she's cast well and all that stuff. But why do we need that? I'm down with Shang Li though. I'm down with that because I'm not down with if they're going to market it as, which they probably will, diversity, diversity. But the character itself has been around a while, and it would be cool to see a martial arts take on a Marvel, a Marvel hero, quote unquote, that's a martial arts guy and whatever, and that's all he is, and it's Asian martial arts. I mean, there's Iron Fist, of course, too, but I hated that series. But it'd be really cool to see that. I don't have a problem with that at all. It's all a matter of how do you tell this story. And then I'd even go even further to your point with it makes sense because Thor's power, we got to see that progress, and we're not going to get to see that with Captain Marvel. I'm actually okay with that. It depends on how they write why she's been missing for all this time. Where has she been? Why has she not been able to show herself and be part of like, the attack on New York and all that stuff? If they can explain why she's been hidden away and it makes sense, then I'm okay with her coming out of nowhere with all this power because she's purposely been hiding for a good reason or been on another planet or whatever the heck it is. So it's just to me, matter how they tell why is she missing. And then no matter what, I don't want to see, Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed version, where except it's Captain Marvel versus Thanos. I don't want to see that at all. It definitely needs to stay the Avengers. That's what it's called. But I guess one last point on this is Des and I recorded our Infinity War review today. And so we got to talking about all this stuff. And that was one thing we were kind of like eye to eye on. It was like, I really hope the MCU continues to be awesome after Endgame, because we're totally prepared for Endgame to be maybe really the Endgame, and then it all goes to crap after this. So hopefully that's not the case, but I really think it's at least on the horizon that we should be prepared for Endgame really being the end game of this last 10 years. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a sad notion, a sad thought that it's going to go down. But at the same time, kind of like Angus says, maybe they just need to go belly up so that they can find out that the SJW stuff, isn't going to work. I'm afraid that because they've had successes or perceived success in Star Wars, The Last Jedi, they perceive it as a success somehow. I don't get that. I'm sure we're all confused with that.
They're looking at the box office. That's why.
I think fans are confused by that box office. Fans that love the movie, and they want to make that argument. I think that people at Lucasfilm, unless they're just even dumber than I think they are fully aware of what's happening with the money, but they're never going to admit that. But anyway, I didn't mean to interject there.
No, you both are good.
No, it's funny. I think that. No, go on, Flip.
Just agreeing with Angus that I think it needs to happen. I want to see a good Avengers movie, but there's no way that Captain Marvel isn't going to be a crap fest. Look at Brie Larson; she's already crapping on everybody. I'm not going to go pay her money for that, no matter what. And then then I'm supposed to watch her in Endgame kick everybody's ass. Ah, man. So it's probably for the best. Go ahead, Angus.
Well, I forgot to add my point about the whole charity crap. I saw the newest video about it with Ethan Skyward. He actually put his money where his mouth is in regards to this whole thing. And he's like, hey, I saw this one $1,800 charity for this hashtag Captain Marvel crap. It hit its quota, its intended funding. And so he donated the same amount to an actual Hungry Children Organization for America. And Yeah, it's funny. It's weird. Like, it's something at first I'm like, I don't see the problem because Black Panther had the same shit. It had the GoFundMe campaigns, made like over $1 million grassroots across the country for this hashtag Black Panther challenge. But that was just the thing. It was grassroots. As far as I know, none of the actors or cast of the movie or Marvel pushed this or funded it because that movie, even though Brie Larson has supposedly donated at least, let's say she donated $1,000 of her own money, she's going to get a chunk of that in any incentive pay if like if they're like, all right, your contract set up where if we hit 750 million, you get an extra million on your contract, or if it's 1 billion, you get five, so on and so forth. Kind of like how football coaches they get in the playoffs when they don't expect to, they have a incentive pay, and if you win a Super Bowl, you get this and that, and this perk and extension. I'm sure her contract she's got an Oscar, so I'm sure her agent already knows this game with setting up a contract for her. On top of she's getting paid 10 times what Robert Downey Jr. got paid. But yeah, any money she donates into this crap is somewhat going to beef up the box office for her own movie. So that money's coming back to her in some way. So it's very disingenuous. And I like that EVS is something I didn't really pick up on until I started watching his stuff repeatedly. I'm like, oh shit, like this is weird. It's like, hey, donate to a charity that is to go see a movie I'm in. And it's like, what? That's fucking weird. And it's like they're not pushing any charities associated with her for like health care for kids or feeding kids. It's all just we got to send these kids to see this movie, and it's like, why? Like this is weird that you're so adamant about it. And when someone questions it, you're up in arms like he's a bigot or something or a misogynist. It's like there's this whole defense about it. And so he's totally spot on. I think it's hilarious. I can't wait for this movie to fail and to see all the SJWs cry about it on Twitter. I'm so glad I'm on Twitter now because of SJWs. It's so great.
Yeah. Crash and burn.
Well,
I don't know.
how
Are any of
quickly
you
we
actually
forgot about
going?
Wonder Woman. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay, man. Go with what you're saying. I was just gonna say something about the Marvel again. I like your direction.
I just find it so odd that this mindset has forgotten that Wonder Woman exists already. It's like we've done all this. We just did it, and we didn't need any of this extra, shame on you stuff that's going on. And it was a hit. So why can't you look at that and go, hey, let's replicate what happened with Wonder Woman? Everybody loved that. But it's like that movie just doesn't exist anymore. It's like every time we're reinventing the wheel. Like same with Black Panther. It's like, okay, you never heard of Blade, you never heard of Falcon, you never heard of freaking Rhodey. I mean, it's like this isn't the first time this is ever happening ever. So it's just strange to me.
And
Jay, I understand
Black
Panther. Go ahead.
It doesn't showcase their agenda. Like, I think everything revolves around money in this world. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but shit gets done because money. And I think there's these little groups, these liberal groups that, like feminism or, we fight for feminism. And who knows how much money they have circulate through their club or their group or whatever you call it. For whatever reason, these agendas and these groups and clubs are connected very highly in Hollywood, and there must be money going through them for whatever reason. So you've got Wonder Woman, who, I mean, it was a wonderful movie. Would I give it a 10? No, but it was damn good. It was completely enjoyable, and she was super pretty, and she was a badass. So, easy sell for me. But women loved that movie too, and it had what a true feminist like. I'm not even sure the word feminist is right anymore. Just a woman.
First wave, just say first wave or original feminist.
Or just,
I agree.
Yeah,
That's right. Would agree that, that said everything that they needed to say. There's a strong woman in it. There was no need to bash men or bash anybody for that matter. So it doesn't serve the purpose of the feminist club or, agenda. And of course, they want us to forget about that because there's no money to be made off of it anymore, except for DC.
Excellent points. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing too is, I don't know if you saw that coverage that the biggest takeaway so far from like these elitists who have gotten to see Captain Marvel. They said like the biggest takeaway of enjoyment was Goose the cat. All right. Well, because I collect toys and stuff, and I'm always trying to find stuff on sale to sell it on eBay. Uh, I saw the Nick Fury Marvel Legends 6-inch figure for the Captain Marvel line, and his accessory, aside from the Build-A-Figure, is a cat who's handcuffed like a person with like a gag or something like on Silence of the Lambs. So like the cat is handcuffed like a two-handed, a biped individual. So clearly, there's going to be something going on with this cat that's bigger than, well, maybe it's a scroll, whatever. I don't know a lot about the comics with Guardians or the Kree or any of that crap. But yeah, it's just funny that the biggest takeaway for this whole feminist crap is the cat so far. And in the marketing, I remember seeing a Funko Pop video marketing on Twitter, their Funko Pop line. They keep selling Captain Marvel, of course, and Goose the Cat. And they don't have the actor of color who's been in the series for like probably 75% of the movies, Samuel Jackson. And it's like, it's all about diversity until there's a woman. Then, even if she's a white devil woman, she's the most important. It's just it always eats itself. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I can't disagree.
True. But I think that this thing is going to be just enough not to bomb, but not great enough to get the criticism that it deserves. Captain Marvel, it's going to be a weird movie. I was looking forward to it at first because I was like, yeah, Captain Marvel, it's um, character that I knew less about. And then when I saw Brie Larson, I was like, okay, that could be a miscast, but she could be, an awesome personality. And well, that went through the window. I mean, I don't have a problem with bland as a person or a character, but I do have a problem with obnoxious. And she is obnoxious. In the trailer where Dick Fury goes, so you're a Kree, so you're from a line or a generation of warriors, noble warrior heroes. I know I'm getting this wrong, but basically he corrects him because he was mansplaining, and he's a hero.
Oh man, I love that word.
It's so funny.
Yeah, well, okay, so I didn't realize this till Odin's movie blog said something, but apparently most movies make 60% of their budget in the first 2 weeks of release. All right, so if Captain Marvel makes 80 million or less, let's say she makes 80 million the first weekend. The next weekend, there's usually about a 50% drop off relatively. So let's say the first 2 weeks she makes 120 million. Even if they have an extended run because it's Disney, you might be looking at a Ghostbusters 2016 type of shit, type bomb where movies like this need to make about 500 million just to say they broke even because of the marketing budget attached to the overall budget. So, man, if it could do Ghostbusters 2016 numbers, that would be so hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know if
What are
it'll
y'all's
fall
thoughts on
that
that?
far. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
What's that?
Nope. Okay. I didn't. I wanted to make sure he got to say what he wanted to say. I don't remember what my point was now. Oh, I was gonna say I don't see it doing Ghostbusters 2016. I don't see that happening. But I think it's if it did go toward that way, I wouldn't be surprised either. I just personally don't see with the Marvel name on it and with it being the movie that everybody wants to see leading as far as it's going to lead into Endgame. There's a curiosity there. I think there's enough there that it'll do a decent opening weekend. I think it'll do okay. I don't see it being a huge hit. I definitely think it's been hurt by what's going on for sure. I absolutely, and I think mediocre is the best it can hope for, which is sad. I just don't see it going so far as being Ghostbusters 2016. But hey, I've been wrong before, and I would laugh if that's what happened. I'll be honest.
Maybe. But I should decline. I have fear of the Marvel franchise. Why should this one go woke? They were doing so well. Why go woke?
Frustrating. Yeah. I mean, we first saw it creeping in on the Netflix series. And then now I thought, okay, well, different people working on those. Hopefully that means it won't bleed into the movies. Feige knows what he's doing. And now we're seeing it bleed into the movies. So, yeah, it's a bummer to say the least.
Well, the weirdest thing is that like this is her first time out. Like, aside from her politics and all of her press tour, making sure there's not too many white males interviewing her, uh, it's weird that she would be so headstrong with her agenda when no one's even seen her movie yet. Like, you would think she would have some restraint at least until after the first couple weeks of release, and then say if she said all the same crap 2 weeks later after the release, fine, that'd be different. Or wait till okay, I've had enough success. They greenlit a sequel. Um, Now I can start, kind of saying my activism ideology behind this movie. Like establish yourself with this character that has this iteration of the characters failed like 8 times rebooting for Marvel comics, and yeah, it's just I don't get it. It's like if you want to go woke, like do it subtly. That's how progressive politics usually works. Is like instead of trying to like just jump the mountain, you slowly ascend the mountain. Ever so slowly, step here, a step there. It's just they are totally mismanaging this, and the fact they haven't shut her up clearly tells me Disney is a-okay with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's okay. So are we. So are we. Because they like getting woke, and we'll just punch them back to sleep. No problem.
Oh, hey,
No
Jay,
problem.
I know I was going to ask you, do you and or Des, do y'all have children or are married?
Neither one of us is married. I do have one son who's going to be 20 years old next month, and I can't even freaking believe it. So, yeah, I'm a father of one.
Okay. So I'm 26. I have 2 kids. I'm ex-army, so it's not crazy for someone my age if you're from the army to have kids so early in this culture. Um, but no, I try to tell my wife, because I have my ear to the ground all the time, following the high council and stuff and being deep into uh, the intricacies of pop culture, what we can find from YouTube and articles. And yeah, I try to tell her, I'm like, please don't pay to see this movie. I know she wants to go see it with her dad. She buys into this crap just because she's in general, she's a woman, and women tend to be more liberal out of, kind emotions, even if they don't see the potential problems it starts long term. And so, like, yeah, I get that, but I try to tell her, like, hey, I'm scared of this culture, what they're doing to media to try to influence our kids, especially, my son, he's a quarter black, but he looks like her. He looks like a white, blue-eyed, blonde hair, like Nazi youth child, and so if he's a straight male and a good athlete in school or something, I'm so scared for what'll happen. So I want, it's rare I get to talk to fathers or parents in general in the fandom menace. I like to get your take on how you feel about the media and stuff these last few years having a son.
Well, kind of just what you said. I'm glad he's at the age he's at, because if he was half that age or younger and this was all happening at that point, I would have real concerns about what he's being exposed to. Absolutely. As it stands now, from my the situation I am in and how old he is, he's just not interested in any of it. And to me, I think that's a good thing, because so he's not feeling strongly one way or another. He doesn't give a crap about Trump one way or the other. He just doesn't. It's not anything that he cares about. I care about it much more than he does, probably. So he's very much a free spirit. So he's kind of just wandering around doing his thing right now. And so, yeah, but I can't speak to having a young child right now being exposed to all this stuff, because he's kind of past that point now. But I can absolutely agree that I know for a fact I would feel just like you do. It's what is my son being exposed to that is absolute garbage and could actually rewire his brain to go a whole different route than he should be going. So you always have that concern as a parent, no matter what, and you just do what you can, I guess. So yeah, I don't know how helpful I'm being or how much I can add more than that. But other than to say, I don't think you're out of bounds or being unreasonable because you have those concerns. Absolutely, I would have the same. And you've got kids too, and I know they're younger than my son, but I don't know how much younger. What's your take? Did we lose Flip?
Flip.
I still hear he might be eating rice.
Well, it was really Black Angus's question. So if you need to hear it again, it's probably better if he asks it again instead of me.
I can hear noise in the background, but no Flip.
I mean, yeah, that's my feedback. I hope it's at least worth a little something. Yeah, that's my feedback as far as parenting.
Until Flip chimes in. I don't have kids yet. I'm 27 years old, and according to Greek standards, things suggest that I'm going to be an old Bruce Wayne waiting to train the next Terry McGinnis and die alone. But well, I can live with that. Thing is that if I were to ever have kids, I'd be much more worried to the world that I'm bringing them right now with all of these liberal values trumping over conservative ones. And I'm not talking about extreme. Nothing is good to the extreme. You should always be flexible. You should always be liberal about some things, conservative about others. Just mix and match some things. And today we're living in a society where kids can go onto YouTube and watch this bearded lady with long nails and smoky eyes and a huge Odin's movie blog beard on her face and talk about equality and activism and stuff. And that's something that I'm really sorry that young impressionable minds are exposed to today. So in a way, it's kind of a good thing that I'm not a parent because I'd end up in jail for my kids because all those stupid activism things that are going on that we're trying to brainwash our kids. I wouldn't go through with it, not without a fight.
Yeah. Well, and it's definitely true. We've probably all heard this before, but it's absolutely true. There's really, if you boil it down, there's two types of people in the world. There's the people that, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you do your thing, I do my thing. We either get along or we don't, but we just kind of all move on and we let each other alone. And then there's thought police that are worried about every single thing you're doing. What's my neighbor doing? Why are they doing that? Who says they can do that? I should tell them that they shouldn't because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and get into everybody's business. So those type of personalities tend to gravitate toward one political idea and the other one trends to go toward the other one. And that's simplifying it, obviously, that we're multifaceted beings and we keep putting each other into categories as a society, and it's awful. But yeah, I agree. It's a strange and concerning time to be raising kids in, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny because when I talk to my wife and I hear it in my own words, it's like I know I sound crazy, but I'm vigilant on this. I'm not just like passing through and I see one thing and it's like, oh man, it's the end of the world. Um, uh, I think Katarna was commenting on the thing I shared, and I said in the top, I'll paraphrase myself, can't remember, but it was that video, like a 14-second cut of I guess a trans person with a beard. It's like a bearded lady. It was like talking about equality and intersectionality and this and that for it's like a kids program and teaching pride and this and that, and it's like the problem, regardless if you're for marriage equality, etc., trans rights, whatever. The problem with teaching this to little kids is you're blurring the lines. You have little kids that go to school, like in England, I saw somewhere like this kid, it's like 6 years old, and all of a sudden this other kid is trans now, and now it's a girl, and the boy is like kept calling him the boy name or calling him boy or something, and he got like expelled from school for transphobia, and it's like you have to like kids don't understand subtleties. So when you try to indoctrinate them with this shit, it's just setting them up for truly easy abuse, I think, because you're blurring the lines when you're trying to force obscure intricate sexuality and identity into kids and blur the lines of what mommy and daddy look this way, even if you're in a gay parent couple, whatever. If you blur the lines of this is what mommies look like, this is what dads look like, this is how you know normal interactions between males and between females when you're a kid. When you blur that, you're opening them up to abuse to varying degrees. That's why you get the like that trans kids dancing at 3 a.m. at gay bars and shit, getting tipped dollar bills like strippers. You know, people think it's fine and that you're a bigot if you question if that's okay. And it's a weird ass time. And
Yeah,
I get annoyed when like it's like I'm people that are not having their ear to the ground of this stuff, not following these controversies on Twitter and stuff. They think you're an Alex Jones doomsday prophet or something. And it's like I feel like John Goodman's character in Big Lebowski. Oh, that's all I was going to say. Jay.
no, all good points. All good points.
Lip has been abducted. That's what I believe.
We can't be teaching this kind of stuff to kids that haven't even hit puberty yet for all the reasons you said, because not only does it possibly lead to being open for abuse, which I agree with, it's also an abuse on children in and of itself, teaching these kids that early. I mean, we know from psychological science that brains develop differently at certain stages in your life, especially when you're young. So that's why if you take a kid to a counselor of some kind, there's different ways to handle talking to a child and getting information from a child and things. The reason for that, because their brains are developing differently. So you can't go shoving this stuff in kids' faces at this age without expecting, I mean, you can, we're doing it apparently, but without expecting any pretty horrible repercussions down the line at some point.
See, that's what makes me. Sorry. Go ahead and finish, and I'll chime in later. You were saying?
No. I'm done. Go ahead.
No. What makes me mad about liberals and their perceptions is that you cannot send a pastor or someone of the church that wears the cloth to a school to teach them about God because their young minds are impressionable and religion is brainwashing. But you can't send a queer transgender drag queen to 6 and 7 year olds and teach them about transitioning and encouraging them. That's okay. That's
Yeah.
not brainwashing.
No, not at all. Right. Because, I'm fine with, look, if you want to explain you have to at some point explain what homosexuality is and how it affects people in society, and heterosexuality. It should be explained at the same time you're having any other sex ed class. I'm all for that. It shouldn't be ignored and act like it doesn't exist. That gets us nowhere good either. But to try to but you do it at the right time. There's a reason, at least so far, we're not teaching sex ed to kids before at least junior high school or whatever it is. There's a reason for that, but I honestly can see that changing to being third graders pretty soon, honestly, or less, the way things are going. But we're ignoring the science and the data we have on brain development just because it's the feels. And I do find conflicting views with that a lot too, because it's like, okay, you're a science denier because you think 1, 2, 3, but you can't point it out the other way around because no feelings. It's like, but wait, you just told me not to deny science or, I don't know, global warming or whatever. So how can you deny that there is something to the data we have on brain development? It's weird. Again, we're back to that. It's the weirdest time to live in ever, I think. I can't imagine things being weird.
And speaking of that, do you remember that like maybe 10 or 20 years ago, parents were concerned that their kids would be brainwashed by TV and radio waves and would become these mindless zombies?
Right.
Kind of looks like a much better, brighter future right now, because they're doing the same thing, only they're turning these mindless zombies into transgender pride zombies. But anyway, not that I have a problem. I actually, when I used to live in Athens, I had this ex-girlfriend who, well, Angus and Flip already know the story. Hashtag she was one of the coolest people that I've ever met. And in my neighborhood, there was this transgender person, and I'm going to say person because I love it when SJWs go wee, and it brings me solace to know that they're losing their shit somewhere in the world. So I met this transgender person, and we were kind of like neighbors. Every morning I'd bump into, I'm going to say her because I met her with a female name, and she was more feminine than the rest. So, okay, I'm going to give her that. but I knew that she had a dong and probably much bigger than mine because she was much taller and much more wider than I was. But she was a kind sport, I've talked to her once or twice when we got on the train and stuff, and you know, she said that what, my body, my hormones, they completely screwed me over, and this is the way I feel. I was suicidal at one point, and I decided that I wanted to transition to see if I was going to feel any better, and well, he said that to be 100% honest, like if I was being tormented spiritually, mentally, and physically 85%, I just reduced that to a 55 or maybe 45%. I'm not 100% consistent or happy. And this person told me that I wished that I had the resolve that straight or maybe gay people had, because even a bisexual person knows that, hey, I like men and women, but know that, hey, I'm a man or I'm a woman. So sexual preference isn't the key here. It's sexual identification, knowing on what gender you belong. And there are two genders. And if YouTube suddenly shuts me down for being improper and giving hate speech to the transgender community, whatever, I'm prepared for that, because that's what happened to that chick on Twitch about a week back. So what happened is that this person said that I wish that I had the same resolve. I try to be happy, because all of this hormonic imbalance in my body is taking a physical toll on me. And I can understand, I can appreciate how that's possible, how that happens. And I can understand that this person, I'm not going to call them, mentally ill and stuff, because she was well behaved. She was very polite. She didn't make any moves. She didn't make me feel any discomfort being around her. As a matter of fact, talking and learning from this person was very informative. So all of these transgender people face a different kind of depression, face a different kind of psychological state than, let's say, a straight person or a gay person face. So to be a man and chemically wanting to be a female, biologically, hormonically, must be a huge torment psychologically on you, and it's fact. It is fact, but it still doesn't deny them of their humanity. And he told me that transitioning is not the easiest thing to do, because that person was still undergoing through a lot of hormonal changes, and they said that if I could just um, get over and done with it, I'd be happy right now. I wish I was just stable, balanced, and that's that. So yeah, they also feel weird, and those people that are actually going on to prides and basically preaching about it are more insecure than this person that I met. And she told me, I'm insecure. I'm very insecure about, my state, because I know that people don't approve that much and stuff. But I won't go out to prides. I have nothing to prove. This is just for me. And yeah, I have an active sexual life, I guess. There are people that she's been involved with in the past, and she said, okay, it's more than enough. But what's important is for my psychological health, and not going to smear it in everyone's face and shove it down their throats. I said, God, I hope not, because the more people are aware and respectful, we could be flooded by transgenders tomorrow. I don't care, as long as they're respectful. As a matter of fact, there's this transgender person here in the town that I live in Africa, tall guy, tall guy, and he's in the process of transitioning. His voice hasn't even broken yet into the more feminine side, and they're okay. They're docile, actually. They're very understanding. I don't know. Maybe it's in the United States or the United Kingdom where things get out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Oh no,
Okay.
you go, Jay.
I was just gonna mention, like, Canada, like, fining people for misgendering and stuff. I think the biggest confusion that just gets glossed right over by so many people is there's a difference between how you feel and what you identify with versus science. So it goes back to that science denying thing again. It's like, no one is telling you you can't be an attack helicopter. Go right ahead. be what you want to be, feel how you want to feel about yourself, and pursue the things that you feel are important to you as an individual. Go for it.
True. Yeah.
So I muted on accident there. Lost my point there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just going to add that it's funny, you look at the history like the 60s and stuff, they had the whole like counterculture and hey, let your freak flag fly, don't worry about the norms of society, just, be you. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But now you have the repercussions of that is they never uh, tampered that with the fact that society won't always accept you, and so you need to grow a thick skin if you want to be non-conformative. And people have lost that. I try to tell because I come across as the bigot when I talk about the that one trans kid drag queen. I think it's Desmond or whatever. And I'm like, I watched a video where it's like, oh yeah, he started wanting to do this at like 2 or 3, and we just let him and stuff. And I think now they've like pretty much monetized their child. Like I don't think the parents work; they just make money off the kid, and they totally enculturated him. So like now when he gets to my age and older, he's always going to be a victim of society as opposed to just a normal person would enculture him like, hey, you want to be a weirdo? That's cool. You're in America. You can do that. But people aren't going to accept you. They'll tolerate you, but they're not going to condone or go along with your fantasies you want to live. And that's like the price you pay if you want to be different. And people have lost that fact of life now, and it's sad. So I think it's like real mental abuse when you let a kid, want to transition. And I like what Ben Shapiro said. He said, you can be the most tolerant parents in the world, but you have to take into account that you live in society, and society is not going to accept you potentially if you don't want to conform. And I don't know, it's a sad state of affairs. And, I think it's funny when you have a gay married man like Dave Rubin and a Jew, Ben Shapiro, on the conservative side. 20 years ago, they'd be probably considered liberals.
Yeah.
I think that shows you the right side and the right party to join. I've never voted besides a local county election when I first registered as an 18-year-old kid. But me personally, I'm totally going to vote Trump 2020 unless he gets killed or something. Because regardless of what you want to say about the history of either party and the shortcomings compared to the platforms, one side is all about limited government and the rights of the individual as much as possible within the confines of society. And it's like, I don't see how you could pick the other side that does not support that intrinsic platform. I think, that shows we're on the right side of things. I think collectively, even if you're registered Democrat or not registered or anything, there's a right and wrong side collectively looking at the platform and what the overall intent of both sides.
Yeah, it goes back to that two individuals. You either want to be in everybody's business or you want to leave everybody alone as long as they're not harming anyone. And one side is one and one side is the other. I don't care if Trump is involved or not. It does not matter who the players are. It's a matter of what are they trying to accomplish? And if it's less government and more freedom and civil rights and et cetera, that's where I want to be, not more government, more control, more regulation, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Because you're not always going to have the best candidate to choose from, as this last election shows us very clearly. So
Yeah,
you got to go with the ideals that make most sense. So
anything against Hillary, my friends. Sorry.
I was a strong supporter of Trump, and I still am. So, but the thing is many elections have gone by where there's nobody that you feel strongly about. It's just the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. And also, Flip, I choked on my soy, so you hurt my feelings. You offended me.
And I hurt your feelings.
And I'm an anomaly too. I can't be explained because I was Obama, but then I went Trump. So explain me. How does that happen? That's supposed to happen. Remember?
You know how that happened. You know how that happened. Promises, and believability. There's one thing that Obama could do, and that is speak. And he he was coming off the heels of this whole, the construction bubble, the whole economic crash, and he said there was change we could believe in. He spoke a good speech, but man, his Merca didn't end up being the Merca I wanted.
Yeah, first term I was good. I did not vote for him the second time. So just by the time the second term came around, I was like, yeah, this guy's not doing what he said he was going to do. So I was definitely ready for a change. Huh? Was that
the first term? I can't blame anybody on the first term. I mean, diehard, on the right, I obviously didn't vote for him, but people everywhere were convinced. I remember watching his speeches and watching the interviews with people in the Midwest. They just would never have voted that direction. And they're saying, oh, yeah, we want this change to come to our town because, we're so, in this financial, situation. And then, I mean, for the first year or so, you thought, well, maybe something's going to be working out. I don't remember any major thing he did except, he supposedly captured Osama bin Laden and then threw him off the ship. Like, oh, we buried his body at sea. Like, I mean, I don't even know if that even really happened now that I think about it. But what else did he do? I don't even know. I don't think he did anything.
Dude,
no, he didn't.
It's funny you brought up the Osama bin Laden thing because so you want about Bush and the wars that he started in the Middle East and stuff, if they were well conceived or not, and just to begin with.
Yeah.
Regardless of that argument, the whole ability of Obama in getting Osama bin Laden, that was off the heels of everything Bush implemented. And it really hurt me. Like, I was happy. It was a great, like, America moment of like, yeah, we got we got bin Laden, all right. That looked really good for Obama going into the second term. But I felt so bad for Bush because, like, I watched this documentary about the death masks of presidents compared to, like, when they first come in. And, dude, the presidency ages people so bad. It's crazy looking at Trump. He hasn't really had that effect yet physically. But you look at
I'm
Obama.
starting to see it, actually. I started noticing on Trump. Yeah, but Obama,
but you look,
for sure.
you look at Obama and like, oh yeah, dude, he was like a spry young, like 40-ish man, and oh my god, it really took a toll on his body. Even if he lives like 80, he's going to be pretty decrepit, I think, from all that stress of being president. And you look at Bush. Bush wasn't a bad-looking guy when he got in, and then you look at him afterwards, and it totally wrecked his body, the stress. And I felt so bad for him. Love him or hate him. I have my opinions and stuff. But I felt so bad for him because clearly he was truly, I think, from his body language, very much devoted to the war on terror and doing right in his view in that fight. And Osama bin Laden was target prime, and he did not get to get him. He did not get to say mission accomplished on that mission. And Obama got to take all the credit for what he implemented, and that felt so bad for him in that. It's kind of like a football comparison. You look at the Buccaneers. They were so close to going to the Super Bowl. Tony Dungy, a black coach, he built a team and then got fired. The next year, this white guy from the Raiders wins the Super Bowl by beating his former team in the Super Bowl off of the team that was built by Tony Dungy those previous years. And it's the same type of narrative. It's like, man, stealing someone else's glory. It's just like, it hurts seeing examples like that.
Yeah,
good comparison too.
Okay, anyone chime in right about now? My panel is so polite, so proper.
But exciting news outside of politics.
Sure.
I love Slave Leia, of course, like most of us do. I'm always trying to get memorabilia of it because Disney says I can't have it, so I really want it now. And I finally won. I'll probably try to flip it for a profit, but I'll pose it in my office somewhere. In the meantime, I just won the Gentle Giant maquette version of Slave Leia, which is kind of like a Clone Wars kind of animation style.
You won it?
Yeah, I won the bid. It's from Canada, so it's about 180, which is pretty cheap for this statue. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
I'm expecting some new lightsaber components to be purchased, but I have to get them all in one location. I have to make sure I'm not traveling around so I can start building. I seriously have a problem. I have an addiction, actually.
Yeah, well, one of my closets is completely full of Transformers, so I can relate. I'm a Transformer geek. But yeah, I've got originals from the '80s. I've got redone ones, reissued ones, all kinds of stuff. Transformers are my bread and butter, man.
So Jay, what did you think of the Transformers series with Michael Bay?
You can probably guess. I hate them. They're awful. They are some of the worst movies and worst adaptations I've ever seen in my life. They're garbage. Even the first one, I don't like the first one either. It's definitely better than the other ones that came after, but I saw it like 1.5 times, and that's all I needed. It's such a missed opportunity. I think Bumblebee, I still want to see because it's the first one in the series that I've been like, all right, they might actually be kind of getting this right a little bit. And then my brother, he works in film. He's actually in LA and stuff. He whatever he gives me his opinion, I pretty much know it's going to be spot on. And he told me Bumblebee was pretty good, and he thinks I'll like it. So I'm going to check that out eventually. I'm not in a rush, but I only saw the first 3, and the second and third ones, I trusted a really good friend of mine that they were getting better. And after the first misconception, after seeing the second one, I didn't know whether to trust him on the third one, but I did because he's a lifelong friend. And it was awful. So I didn't even bother with the fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever one they're on. Yeah, they just butchered that franchise. And I get really sick of hearing, but it's just a kid's cartoon. It's like, okay, yes, that is what made it famous for sure. But if they were just remaking the kids' cartoon, I would also hate it. There's definitely mythology that's happened over the last couple decades. It's like that's all being ignored for the most part. And so this argument of it's just a kid's toy, who cares? It's like, no, then you could say that about Captain America. You could say that about Iron Man. You could say that about Batman. That could apply to anybody then. So when you tell the story right and you adapt it correctly, you can do something really great. And I feel like they just missed the opportunity completely. And yeah, so I hate them is the bottom line. I think they're awful.
Well, dude, before you watch Bumblebee, you should watch my review of it because I'm not a Transformers guy. Like when I was a kid, I liked Beast Wars, but it's pretty superficial. Like it looked cool. I wasn't indoctrinated or raised with Transformers as a thing. And I was kind of late to the Transformers party as far as the Michael Bay movies. I liked the first one, all right, but then starting to get into like criticism, I watched them. I'm like, I cannot own this in my collection. This isn't even a guilty pleasure. And I saw the fourth one in theaters, only one I saw in theater, and I was like, dear God, you're just now teasing the like creators and the origin of the Transformers, like as a hook for future movies. I'm like, fuck you. And then the fifth one came out and they were really pushing this like woman narrative with like the girl or whatever. And it just seemed out of nowhere. And then it's like, oh, the Transformers were in the medieval ages and they were fighting with swords. And it's like, what? It's like, they're Transformers. Like they can like, why would you purposely limit yourself with rudimentary technology when you can literally transform into different robots and stuff and different
like
machines?
A laser blaster.
I have a woke idea. Woke idea. There should be transgenders transforming into different genders.
Oh yeah, I love making trans jokes with Transformers. There's a bit of comedy in my Bumblebee review if you haven't seen it, so definitely check it out, Jay.
That was a really good transition.
Oh boy. Or girl. I don't want to be.
Are we transmitting? Sorry.
I think we're transcending. Okay, last one, I swear.
Yeah, well, if they do transgender formers, we'd have about 1,000 different things for them to turn into, so that'd be good.
Right. Yeah, there's not 2 genders. Oh my God, there's 1,000. Yeah, I like. It makes me think of that part where Bumblebee leaked his fluids out. Remember that in the first one?
Yeah.
I think that's
Unfortunately, I remember that. Yes.
Yes, they could probably do something with that too. in
Remember in the
Transformers.
second one, that one had like balls that they made a point of showing. And
Yeah, Devastator. That was Devastator, which was just sacrilegious, man. It's like you finally build Devastator and you're gonna do that? Are you freaking kidding me? Yeah.
Sir, we're fine. Sir, I think back at the enemies, scrotum. And when he said scrotum, I was like, okay.
I don't even remember that. Oh my gosh, that's awful.
You know what's funny too, talking about the whole kid thing with Transformers, is like those same weirdos in all their quote unquote criticism reviews of The Last Jedi. And then when the backlash happened, they're like, oh, get over it. It's kids' films. Those same people ripped every Transformers movie to shreds. And that was a big point of my. I was going to debate this real. He's not like a big channel, but he's had a good amount of success for a small channel so far. It's like 800 subs, but he's really petered out since then. But he's a real apparent Disney shill as far as his attitude with anything Disney Star Wars. And for a while, he had these videos of different fandom ministers like Jesse Milestone, Craig for Reviews, John Talks, where he just take little sound bites of them and try to. They're called dumbass like volumes. And he deleted those to quote unquote. He wanted to be a positivity channel, and so he deleted those. I think it was really just so he could not have people critique him about it. But those same weirdos that like I was going to debate him at The Last Jedi, and I was going to talk about plot points and stuff and like how this doesn't work for the saga. But a big a big chunk of it was really going to be about the culture around it from criticism and stuff. And that so if you watch my objectivity video about Last Jedi, that's pretty much the whole argument I was going to have with that guy was outside of the movie, the whole response from quote unquote critics shilling for it. And it's weird because the same people hate Transformers and will tell you every reason why it sucks outside of the origin of like the well-made cartoons and stuff. They'll rip it to shreds, and they can't do the same thing for Last Jedi because it has politics they like to it, I guess.
Yeah, that's precisely it. I think that's it.
Well,
I had something to add, but it honestly went right out of my head again. I think I'm so that's why I muted. So if it comes back to me, I'll.
Well, it's the curse of Sheila Boof. Everything the guy touches, man.
himself, Megan Fox.
That's great.
Dude, when he swung in the trees in Crystal Skull, I was like, it was such a transcendent moment. Like that's when I really bought into the Indiana Jones series. Was when I saw that.
What a stupid movie.
Dude, Jay, so I just finished the Indiana Jones series. Like I wasn't raised with classic film, so I never saw Indiana Jones. So I started watching them, I think the end of last year, and then I finally watched 3 and 4 on Netflix recently. And I watched 4, and I'm like, yeah, it's not great, but it's actually not horrible. Like, as a fresh person into this series, it's definitely a downgrade. But I watched it, I'm like, it's not horrible. And I really feel it like when you throw in like this kind of Doctor Who scenario of aliens and Indiana Jones, I don't see where else you can go with it. So the fact they're trying to make a 5th one, I'm like, why? Unless you're doing like young Indiana Jones with like a recast like Chris Hemsworth or that lookalike of Harrison Ford, I don't see what you can do to add to the story with sorry, I'm hiccuping with Harrison Ford.
Yeah, the guy what's the kid's name that we were wanting to be Han Solo? Not Aaron Reich, the other guy.
Anthony Ingruber.
There you go. If they bring him into that, yeah, that'd be cool. He looks like Harrison Ford. He could be Harrison Ford's son in a way that no other actor could.
They have actually played in a movie together, I think.
That's right. I've got clips of that on my phone somewhere. Can't remember the name of the movie to save my life, but yeah, I've seen that.
It's in his spank bank.
Yeah, I really need to rename my photo albums. You figured it out, but yeah, he's a real, the perfect guy. He's the real deal for being a Harrison Ford look like, who they also should have clearly used for Solo. And I'd be
Yeah.
down with that. Now I don't want to see any more of the transgression of swinging through the trees, But yeah, I said all that so I could say transgression.
I don't hate the fourth Indiana Jones film. I do think it's stupid, though. I think that's the best word for it from my perspective. It's not a movie that I can be completely wholly angry about like I am with Last Jedi, for example. But I just think it's a dumb movie, and I don't want a dumb popcorn movie in my Indiana Jones saga. I just don't. I mean, it's always had that element to it that everyone can enjoy, and I'm not trying to take away that, of course. But it's its own thing. I don't know. For me, it's the problem that you brought the aliens. I have no problem with the aliens, actually. The whole idea of Crystal Skull and the aliens and all that, I have never from day one had a problem with it. I've never understood why people have such a horrible time with that, because he's been going on all kinds of adventures throughout Young Indiana Jones and all kind of outlandish stuff. So why not? I just felt like, as I said, the movie was dumbly executed is all. It could have been good on the premise they had. Don't even change the premise, but I just felt the way it was handled. I haven't seen it in so many years now. I can't give you more specifics, unfortunately, but just from the beginning to the end, there's just too many moments where I remember going, no, this is wrong. This isn't right. This doesn't feel right. It's more of a gut feeling thing, I guess. So yeah, but I'm one of those people. I hope this isn't a surprise. It's like, look, you can like whatever you want. If you love The Last Jedi, love The Last Jedi. More power to you, but don't get back to that scolding thing. Don't point a finger at me and tell me I'm an awful person for not liking a stupid movie when it comes down to it, So, yeah, that's interesting. You hadn't seen any of them recently. That's cool.
I like the alien. Go ahead, man.
No. Go Flip.
I liked the alien angle too. I guess you could probably figure that out. If you have an Ark of the Covenant that, if you open it, it kills you if you look at the ghosts. I mean, we're talking about ghosts and religion. Right. If we can get there, we can get to aliens, which are probably more likely real. So I didn't have a problem with that. And you're right, it didn't feel right. Recently, Rookie had a watch party for Jaws, and it's a Spielberg movie, his first real big one, I guess. Yeah. And it was fun to rewatch it, which I really didn't do much watching of. I talked to them a lot, and then I finally found it right toward the end when I had to go, but whatever. But I did go ahead and put it back in or bring it up on Netflix what's today? 2 days ago, whatever that was. And Jaws, you can really feel the Spielberg in the movie. And then you can easily just pop in one of the Indiana Jones, which are on Netflix as well, and start watching that, and you can feel the Spielberg in those movies. I haven't watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind in a while. Gosh, I might have been 10 years old last time I saw it, but I think I will pop that in pretty soon because you can feel Spielberg in that, if I recall correctly. It's just something about the way he uses lighting and the way he, keeps the camera on the characters for the writing, for the way that they speak to each other, for the emotional gravitas of the situation. But you're right about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's like it wasn't written by Spielberg. It felt like it was written by somebody else, even though they used the same writer and Spielberg and the co-writer, whatever his name was, all the way up through there. And up to the last one, that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it still didn't feel right. The writing felt wrong, and Shia LaBeouf made it feel wrong. He was like he wasn't a greaser. He has too puffy of a hair to be slicking it back like that. Looked weird. I hated that Marcus Brody, he passed away, and that already the real actor. I hated that he wasn't in it because it didn't feel like Indiana Jones. It would have been nice if they hadn't killed off Sean Connery's character, but they couldn't get Sean Connery to come out of retirement. That would have been pretty awesome, though. My favorite one has to be the one with Sean Connery, which is, oh my God, help me. What's it called again?
That's the third one.
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade. Yeah.
Last Crusade. Yeah, that's my favorite one. They didn't seem to really. I felt like when they were in the alien pyramid thing or anything that had to do with the ancient ruins, it looked like a styrofoam set piece. It never really felt like they were really on location, like it did in the Last Crusade.
I think you hit it. I think you made me realize, you made a great point that it doesn't feel like Spielberg. It feels like a movie made by a committee, like a lot of these committee-made movies feel. And that's how Crystal Skull feels to me as well. Sounds like Black Angus, that wasn't the case, though. I find that very interesting, especially someone who didn't grow up with the originals. So I find that fascinating, actually. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
you're
I kind
right.
of just watched them. I just kind of watched them all through a couple months, and I'm like, okay. Like I watched Temple of Doom. I'm like, man, this is so intense. Like this is great. And I don't get why people hate Temple of Doom. Yeah, it's racist or whatever. Boo-hoo. Like it's fun. Yeah, and I think like this is channeling like adventure from the 30s, and so it's like this is the Orient. These are weird people to us, and it really captures that like this is a different culture, and so I don't mind it, even though it may be quote unquote insensitive. I liked it, and Last Crusade was okay. Not my favorite. I say 1 and 2 are better, but it's still like quality. And then fourth one, it's like a downgrade, but like I didn't mind Shia LaBeouf. I thought it was stupid that they made a point to like talk about fencing, and then it's like, oh wow, they have this whole fencing sequence with on the trucks, and it's like you could end this fight by just turning the car or hitting the brake. Like so many times I watch chase sequences, and it's like, why does no one implement the brake in this or like a turn? Like you could change the
Yeah.
dynamic. You could still make it intense, but like actually have someone try to like improvise and get out of the situation. And it's so weird that you just like keep fighting. Like you have it, like just stop. That was weird, and the whole like stupid like swinging thing and the monkeys. The biggest thing to me, because like a good director films stuff on purpose, especially if you have CGI direction. I was like, I thought they were really going to have some sort of like subtext with the gophers. I thought they're going to like, okay, they keep showing these fucking gophers, and then I was waiting for them to actually like go back to the gophers, and like these inconsequential like side pieces would actually be like burrowing around a freaking artifact of like a UFO or something crazy like that, where it's like, holy shit, if only they like dug into like the gopher mounds or something. No, they're just they animate all these gophers for no reason to like what why.
It's got original trilogy special edition syndrome. Basically, it's just stuff shoved in there as much as we can shove in there for the sake of, we could do some CG gophers in the foreground here. That'd be great, and that's the only reason. And it falls flat because of that, obviously.
And
Oh,
I think I know why they did the gophers. Because at the beginning of every Indiana Jones movie, they show the Paramount Mountain in different ways, and I think they were trying to show that. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
well, the other thing too, probably the worst thing in it to me, I actually liked the whole sequence in the temple or whatever, with the skull and all that, and the aliens and shit. Besides like opening the door, it's like, wait a minute, how did anyone get a skull out of here if like it's not open? Like that made no sense. That was just they forced that plot. But the dumbest thing in that movie that pissed me off was the like retarded Radagast type exposition with John Hurt's character. I was like, why? Like this guy, like this is the guy who he's like the first kill an alien. He's the president in V for Vendetta. He's the main character in 1984 adaptation, and you have him being this like retarded Radagast character who like is in tune with this skull or something. It's like, what the hell? Like that was the biggest thing to me. I didn't mind Shia LaBeouf. I actually liked and I watched, because I love Red Letter Media's humor and angle on a lot of stuff. So I watched their Plinkett review of Crystal Skull. After I watched it, I'm like, it's funny that they actually don't hate this movie. They just think it's like so mismanaged and stuff, and they point out its flaws and have humor. But like when he's saying like, I didn't mind Shia LaBeouf, I'm like, oh wow, like, I appreciate this because I didn't mind him either. I just thought that some of the stuff they added to him was weird. Like I like the whole contrast of him before they reveal it, that's Indy's son. It's like, oh, it's kind of funny that they're going to put Indy in his place by making that his son when he's totally against like how he's been raised or whatever, and how he's kind of foregoing school and everything and education and just kind of being a rabble rouser.
Yep. I mean,
precisely.
If you liked him, you liked him. And actually, when we saw the movie, when it came out in theaters, there was no, just do it. Then none of that was out yet. So. But he, I don't know, something about him just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know. Maybe it's his cockiness, his arrogance shines through his acting. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that he doesn't look like he'd be related to Harrison Ford in the least. That could have
Well,
been
it was clearly a casting trying to like monetize off of someone's recent fame because he just did Transformers, which is a huge hit at the
Yeah.
time in like 07, Crystal Skull came out in '08, so that was clearly like trying to like capitalize off of someone's recent fame to
But
add
I don't.
into a famous series.
Yeah, and I know where I see that. I totally agree with you, but I don't understand why when you didn't need anybody's fame to help carry that movie, you
Well,
had Harrison Ford.
don't forget that Spielberg and LaBeouf were buddies at this point. If you remember, they were close.
Oh,
So he
oh,
cast him because he liked working with him. That's the other equation. Yes, it obviously was going to bring in numbers at the time because it's Shia LaBeouf and he was famous at the time and whatever. But they were friends at the time because they had a falling out a couple of years later, very public, where he talked some stuff about Spielberg and was saying anyway. So I don't think they're talking really anymore. But at the time, they were pretty close, from what I understand. So if I'm remembering the stuff that was coming out at the time, that was part of the reason he got cast because it was just they liked working with each other. So
I see. Well,
Yeah, well, the other aspect I totally forgot that was like, why did you not build this up? Like, it didn't make sense to me because what Indiana Jones in like the original three movies, he's like in his 30s, right? Like in real life, he's like in his 30s or 40s.
yeah,
mhm.
early 30s when he did the first Indiana, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like, he's an older guy as far as like doing these kind of young man actions movies. It works because he's like a doctor of archaeology or whatever with like a cult uh, emphasis. Um, and so like his age makes sense for his character and his being a professor and stuff. And oh, there was so many. Oh yeah, like they give this plot that like he served in World War II on like these undercover missions or some shit as like a spy, and it's like, wait, what? Like he's a fucking professor. Like he does these kind of wacky, adventure sequences trying to get artifacts, but like it's never felt like too out of place because he's an archaeologist and he just kind of the stuff kind of happens to him and he's just surviving and improvising. But for him to like be in World War II and shit as like a spy with this buddy, that was weird. And then to top it off, you have like this whole CIA thing of like questioning his loyalty or something. And then they like just forget about it afterwards. And it's like, what was the point of that? Like that would have been
Yeah,
cool to like tie in the whole CIA thing.
I thought that was going somewhere too. Yeah, and then as far as World War II, I don't think it was World War II. I think it was uh, the Cold War. What's the guy's name that he's hanging out with there? He says, "Put your hands down. You're embarrassing us." That guy. You remember his
Yeah.
name? But that's the guy who I'm talking about. He was supposedly doing spy stuff with him, but I think it was more the Cold War era, the stuff with Cuba. I think he said something about that era. Because back in World War II, he wasn't in the army because in the Last Crusade he's against the Nazis, but he wasn't a spy and he wasn't in the army, and that's when World War II was. Remember, he meets Hitler, literally meets him.
Yeah,
And he
yeah, yeah.
signed
He's in the suit.
Right. Now I could be wrong, but I'd have to watch it again, and I don't know if I'm going to do that. But it's not a bad movie. I mean, hell, I think I just watched it like 4 weeks ago. But I don't know. It's not a bad movie. It just didn't feel like Indy. Did you feel like it felt like Indy having watched the other three?
No, not really.
I'm out. Angus, did you feel like they all flowed together?
Well, it to me it feels kind of like there's hints in the movie that feel kind of like Skyfall, where it's like Skyfall and Spectre kind of blend together as far as this angle with Daniel Craig being Bond and uh, given his actual age and stuff, like even though this is kind of like prequel stories to Bond as far as the whole like saga, if you will, with his iteration. Uh, they kind of hint at what I call the Brett Favre effect, where a guy's questioning if he should still be doing his job, if he's too old, if he should retire. And it felt that way with Indiana Jones 4, where it's like all right. He's too old to be doing this shit. And it felt like he was just kind of like complacent with his life, and you see like his dad's gone, and he's like hitting tenure or whatever, and something else going on with his friend and stuff, and it's like, yeah, it just feels like it should be over. They should just kind of leave it alone. Like, if you didn't do something in the '90s with Indiana Jones, you should have just quit while you're ahead and just like,
They
leave
should have.
leave yeah, just like leave it for the imagination as opposed to like kind of like Solo, it's the same idea. Where it's like, like let's explore Solo's origin, and it's like after you see what you get, you're like, you should have just left it alone. You can argue about the prequels and if you needed them or anything, but you don't really feel like, we'd be better without them. Like they add something to the story that's interesting, even if you don't like the movies, as opposed to like Indy 4 and Solo and stuff. It's like, you should have just quit while you're ahead.
He was awesome in Air Force One. I guess he was in his 50s then, or late 40s, early 50s, or something. That's about the time right after Air Force One. They should have done an indie movie. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it shows you how much of an impression it made on me. I've seen Crystal Skull twice, I know for a fact, but it's been years. I didn't even remember John Hurt was in it. You guys are explaining all the stuff that's happening, and I'm just like, I don't remember any of this. So that shows you how much of an impression it left on me. I just didn't enjoy it. But more power to people who do. I think they need to reboot now. I don't want a fifth indie. I didn't want them to do the fourth one. But if they're going to keep going and doing them, no matter whether I like it or not, reboot the thing and do a younger actor and start over and basically do young Indiana Jones TV show that they used to have in the 90s, late 80s, whatever that was. Do those as films instead with a younger actor and go for it that way. Because having a fifth one, I'm just like, no more. I love Ford to death. He's one of my favorite actors, but no, just let it be. Anyway, yeah.
I would say you could do 5 if you would do the Batman Beyond kind of storyline of him passing the torch to his son or to a pupil under his study or something.
Kind of
I'd
what
be
they
fine
were
with
doing
that.
though, in a way, with Shia. They were trying to set that up, and then it didn't go. So I cut you off. I'm being rude.
So, guys, I'm going to be ending the stream quite in the next like 10 minutes. So, is there anything that you guys want to say before we close? Anyone want to plug their channel or anything?
Premature ejaculation. That's my son. He just came in from work.
He just came in from work.
No. No.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good springboard to promo ourselves off. There we go. Perfect. Great segue. Yeah,
Well,
I gotta get going here pretty soon. Yeah, so probably should wrap it up. I gotta go. Or not that you guys have to wrap it up because I leave, but I'm gonna have to leave here in a minute or two anyway.
Hey, and yeah, I've got to handle something with you off air, Jay.
Okay, no problem.
Cool.
Okay, so Angus, want to plug in?
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter at Angus Reviews. Come to my Twitter, receive some hashtag Big Clit Energy. We'll fight the patriarchy together. Subscribe to my channel, Black Angus Reviews. Cover film philosophy in the NFL. Like to have a lot of fun. I'm actually working on a video right now, making fun of a specific SJW that hopefully will come to see the light and join the fandom menace. But yeah, a lot of fun on my channel. Doing more collabs with Flip and hopefully Rookie, etc. Just great fun time in the fandom collective right now.
Awesome. And remember, guys, you should subscribe to this person because he's an Angus of color. Diversity is our strength.
That's right.
So, Angus Reviews, everybody. Subscribe to his channel because I'm telling you, if you guys are subscribed to me, then you're definitely going to want to be subscribed to him. Plus, did you break the 500 sub mark yet?
No, I'm at 495. Like I've been dancing around 489 and up to 496. I keep dancing around. I can't quite hit the peak of 500 yet.
I'm gonna see if any of the. You'll get there. You definitely will. So, Jay, anything that you'd like to say before we go off air?
Sure. I'm Jay from Those Two Bald Guys, and I'm part of the duo. We review movies. Unlike this conversation, we do not do any politics, no political anything on our show. We stay free of that. Our next review is on Thursday for Rocky. We're a bi-weekly show, so the next one will be 2 Thursdays after that. So I hope you tune in. And best way to find us right now is just to go to those2baldguys.com, because right at the top you got our YouTube link and our Twitter link and all that. And that's a number 2, those2baldguys.com.
Awesome.
Nice. Flipped Out here. You can check me out on Flipped Out or at cmerit73 on Twitter. Gonna do the same stuff I always do, and it's gonna usually end in something pretty silly. Also, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but just remember, if it's not mine, it's wrong. And sorry, my strong opinions offended your oversensitive nature, if that is the case. But thanks for having me on today, Qatar.
A shot of soy for all of those that got offended, myself included. So that's my panel for today, everyone. Thank you for watching. You know who I am, and obviously, I'm the guy with the dashing blue lightsaber. I took it from Ray because she broke it, and we'll be tuning in again next week, possibly. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we hope to catch you in the next Podrace After Party. And guys on the panel, just so you know, Jay, I'd like to have you on some stream again sometime if you're up for it.
Oh, sure.
My channel's
great.
my channel's always open. Well, that's that. So we're going off air, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.